What up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Pearl Daily. Feminism was an irreversible process. They gave women the ability to be whores and thoughts, yes. And I know you might be thinking, fellas, we really need to save the West. But on this channel, I don't sell you hope. And I'm telling you, it's probably for the best. Society isn't your problem. You didn't ask for this bullshit. Society isn't your problem. You're a guy at the bottom. There's not shit you can do about it. Now look, most of us in life, we don't have a lot of influence. There's not really jack shit that we can do about the marriage and divorce laws. I can do my best, but I want to be honest with you. There's billions of dollars every year that a lot of people are robbing from men. And this includes the lawyers, the judges. There's not that much we can do about it. 'Cause the hoes are gonna hoe. Keep it on the low. Nobody has to know. Hoes are gonna hoe. It doesn't matter what I say on the podcast. There's some bitches that are gonna Glock 9000 with no class. There's always some bitches that are gonna throw it back. Hoes are gonna hoe. Oh, keep it on the low. Hoes are gonna hoe. Keep it on the low. Nobody has to know. Hoes are gonna hoe. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. He said I look tired. Fuck you. I hate it when people say that. It's like, what do you want me to say? I'm sorry my face couldn't look better for you. I'm sorry I couldn't be better looking. It's like, what do you want from me? What do you want from me? All right, today we're going to be reacting to Andrew Wilson debating entrepreneurs in cars. I meant to do this a while ago, but wait. Okay, hold on. Let me find it. I'm going to be honest. I'm friends with Andrew, so this is no hate to him at all. I usually agree more with the red pill guys on this stuff, but anything I say, I mean the utmost respect to Andrew all the time. Okay, we'll go through my Twitter first, and then we can go a different direction. I could not stop laughing. Kanye West is set to take the bar exam. I'm going to pass the bar and finish what Kim started. If he passes, I will cry laughing. Oh, Sean Strickland won his fight yesterday. I'm so proud of him. What a guy. You know, he's one of the most entertaining people in the UFC. The most entertaining. By the way, ring girls, they tend to be in the 8 to 10 category. Just in general, if there's a male audience, like OnlyFans models, porn stars, that's generally 8 to 10. Like this girl, I'd put her at an 8. Probably 8. Yeah.
Listen here, you motherfuckers. I know you guys, you might want your local Mexican to win. There's nothing wrong with that. But let me tell you, to the Lone Star State, there's only one motherfucker who stands and bangs. Your fucking guy wrestles. I fight more like a Mexican than that motherfucker. Fuck you.
Oh, I didn't retweet him all the. Hold on, I'll pull it up later. Oh my god, his post interview from the fight was hilarious. He kicked the shit out of that guy. Oh my god, it was so funny. I thought this was hilarious. Clavicular is gonna do a new segment where he catches hoes on like how to catch a predator. It's how to catch a hoe.
Do you know what we have to start doing instead of pred catching? We have to catch like sluts. You know what I mean? Who are down, and we'll make them call their fathers. Be like, your daughter was just about to have a one-night stand with a random guy she met on the internet 15 minutes ago.
Shit.
Oh my god. This is from the landlord that called into the show. Bruh.
A bunch of
This is how black people live, apparently. This is from when I lived in London. Bruh, guys. They say, Pearl, why don't you like living in London? Isn't it? It can't be that bad. It can't be, it's fine. It's nothing, you complain so much about it. What's so off? It literally looked like Pakistan where I used to live. It was incredible. All right, let's see this lady.
Nice guys or bad boys?
Bad boys.
Why?
They're more fun.
Is this guy a bad boy?
He's bad in bed.
Craig, welcome to the gym. Here, today we're going to be working both arms and abs. Here, come to the office. First up, Craig, we're going to start out doing these.
I love this. I've seen this guy's this guy's gym. That's genius marketing. All right, wait, hold on. Let me pull up Sean Strickland. All right, let's see Sean Strickland. Media. Because I think they muted his mic.
Like, I mean, look at the NFL, dude. You had that. I don't even want to say the faggot's name because, like, it's just like, what? Somebody give me his name. Just come say his name. I want to say, I'm talking about the halftime show guy, the Puerto Rican, right? Puerto Rican.
Bad Bunny?
Bro, yeah, that fucking faggot. Like, dude, it is so crazy that this is America now. Like, back in the day, dude, the NFL was the fucking standard of being a fucking man. And now every fucking year, the NFL, I think they all get together around a table and say, guys, how do we fucking ruin this sport? How do we get it up? How do we fucking ruin it? Well, I'll tell you what, why don't we bring a gay foreigner who doesn't speak fucking English and have him perform it? Like, get the fuck, and then you have like, yeah, dude, it's like the NFL is like fucking pathetic these days. So even like the NFL players can probably hate it. Yeah, no. NFL's, I think we'd all agree the NFL got real gay lately. Like, I mean, look at the NFL, dude. You had that.
Yeah, this is, can you imagine? You're just like trying to keep your sponsors. You're trying to keep your sponsors and Strickland just, I saw this. This is funny from Dana White.
What he says during media day and things like that, that doesn't affect your booking of him, right? You are still happy to put him in those?
It's a nightmare. But you guys don't help. Asking them dumb shit, ask dumb shit, you're going to get dumb shit. What'd you think of Bad Bunny? What'd you think of the Super Bowl? Get the fuck out of here. You fucking kidding me? Yeah. So when you talk about what Strickland says, you guys like to push the buttons.
What he says.
Incredible. Let me see what else.
Dude, you're out here looking like a gay ass pirate.
Oh, they cut him off.
Dan Hooker semen in your asshole. Who wants to see fucking two little go fuckers go at it? You want to see a real fucking American fight this little Chechnyan fucking whore in American soil?
I don't think you're going to get on the White House card.
Maybe I got to go hang up at Epstein or some shit. I guarantee fucking Shemaya would go to a fucking island. That motherfucker's going all day long, that dirty little fucker. You got one pierced earring, dude. Don't act like you're a classy guy, you dirty fuck. Let me tell you about this little bitch. We're going to ask some stupid questions. Go. Come on, Amy. Let's talk about the gays. Let's talk about the trans. Come on, Amy. Let's get fucking Paramount to call me and bitch at me. Nah, sorry. I'll make fun of gays every chance I get, guys. Don't worry about that. I'm not going to. I support your lifestyle.
Well, I'm not gay.
You're not gay, seriously? No, hey, don't you laugh, dude, you Navy veteran. Hey, you're in the Navy, bro. Relax. We know about you guys.
Wait, what's the Navy joke? I don't get it.
Is there anybody that's 35 around here? Anybody close to 35 years old? Can you picture being 35 years old and meeting a sweet little 14-year-old Aspen lad and saying, I'm going to marry her when she turns 18. That's what fucking Jim West did. Who's really like entertaining? You got Shemaya of the fucking go fucker. Oh, that's a wrap. Anyways.
Oh, they muted his mic. Well, congratulations to Strickland. I interviewed Strickland a few months ago. And he can beat these fuckers in the ring, but he can't beat me in a debate. Okay. Yeah, but he's hilarious. We're fans of Strickland. He's a nice guy. Okay. All right, we're gonna go to the debate. Why smart men don't get married. Oh, my other take today. So, all right, I'll do one riff. And it's about surrogacy. And I recently, me and Doug MPA we've beefed about surrogacy because I think surrogacy is great for men. I think it's incredible. So I tweeted this today. Surrogacy is a great option for men because they're actually good parents. The kids will be well-rounded. And I got so much pushback. Rachel Wilson's coming in and saying, no, I have to disagree on this take. A child needs a mother. And even Doug MPA, he came at me respectfully, right? Doug MPA. And he's saying like, Pearl, it's, I forgot what he said, but it was something along the lines of like, that's for losers, right? Like, if you could put your take in the chat, Doug MPA, maybe I convinced him. I don't know. But I think his original take was that because you're like going in as a failure, you're essentially, you're not even trying, And I understand that logic. I do understand because I think a lot of times we think of women that do IVF and they're complete losers, right? They're complete losers. Like they have no relationship skills. They have no people skills. They can't, and their kids are just going to be awful because women have no structure and it doesn't matter if it's a kid or it's a dog, right? You see like the dogs that women raise are terribly trained, but the dogs that men raise are beautifully trained. Like Myron's dog can go on the street and it doesn't even need a leash. My dog, I can't even get to stop barking for a live stream. Right? Like occasionally you'll hear her in the background, right? I'm not special or different than any women. I just notice these things, right? I'm like the eternal noticer. And in China, there was a guy who, he was a guy in China and he became a father by egg donation and he picked a white woman, right? He found a white. Now his daughter's half white, half Asian. Single mothers by choice are their devil. They're selfish enough to bring kids into a single parent situation. Men are not will. Yeah, that's what I told you yesterday. Yeah, I changed his mind. Men are not women. We are selfless, not selfish. Yeah. So this guy in China says, I want to be a dad, but women are terrible, and it's not you guys' fault that like you can't hire a woman. You could hire an employee. You could hire a nanny to raise your kid. And that would actually be better because if the nanny acts up, you can fire the nanny and get a new one, right? You can offer incentives for the nanny to stay. You could say, hey, good behavior. I'll give you a raise in 10 years. Women, you can't do that, right? There's no firing mechanism. There's no incentive. There's no incentive structure. So I'm actually very pro surrogate, and I bet that guy got so much pushback. Can you imagine like 20 years ago, the kid's like, 16 to 20, somewhere there. And I bet he got so much pushback, right? I bet he got so much pushback from everyone around him saying he was wrong, probably, similar to this, saying he was wrong for like wanting a kid, and doing it the surrogacy way. Because anything women do, if men do it, it's like the looks maxers. When women looks max, it's celebrated. When men looks max, it's shamed, right? And I bet he got so much pushback saying, oh, like that's wrong. Da, 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 da. Well, his kid's an Olympian now. How many single fathers do that? And it's like, I bet it's like 1 out of 100 raised like Olympian or neutral. Like, yeah, if a man wants to have a kid, he should try to bear the child in marriage, not the single parent by choice crap. Yeah, I disagree. Because women are terrorists. And okay, by having a kid in a marriage, just a lot from a logical point of view, we take out the emotions, right? Like, love, blah, blah, blah. I don't know a single woman that does not try to exert control over her husband. I don't think I know a single teenager whose mother didn't terrorize them in some way, either by being too controlling, I don't know one. So we know the odds, like just anecdotally, we know the odds of having a torturous mother, especially now with social media, it's going to be worse, right? So we know the odds of having a torturous mother is like 99 out of 100. So knowing those odds, it would just make sense to, get a designer baby and raise it perfectly. Like, I think most kids thinking of their mom not around sounds like heaven on earth. No nagging, no complaining. I know somebody who's, I'm not going to say who, but I know somebody whose mother said, oh, you don't appreciate me. And this mother literally ran away. And this person said that they noticed that the dad was actually a saint because when the mother ran away, it was peace on earth. Without mothers, like honestly, in general, life would be heaven on earth. Because, you cannot have a child. Surrogacy is the only way for you to have rights to your kid. So it's like, okay, we're going to shame the guy because he doesn't want to give the woman rights to her. Like he wants a true patriarchal situation. He wants a true patriarchy, right? A true patriarchy means the man has authority to fire anybody in the kid's life that sucks. That sounds like heaven on earth. Because here's the thing. Men, like when women have a kid, women treat the kid like a designer bag. Like it's a prop for their Instagram. They have to use the kid for their reputation. It's the kid's job to maintain the parent's reputation. Men don't care about their reputation. When they have a kid, they want it for selfless reasons. They feel like they have a lot of love to give. They feel like they want to, be like, they know they have fatherly traits they just cannot give. Now, is it a little bit embarrassing? Like it's kind of an L, right? It shows you can't get a woman to some degree, but who's taking the bigger L, right? The guy in family court taking that big, who's the bigger L, right? The guy that can't get a bitch he cannot get a bitch. So he just says, fuck it. These bitches are insane. Let me go get my kid and I'm going to raise an Olympian, right? Or the guy that's begging in divorce court for his kids. At least one's not groveling. Is the player in a better position when the baby mama gets mad that he cheated and then she cheats back and then now he's so frustrated with the bitch. He says, take child support. I'll see you at 18, Juanito. Or just don't have kids. That's an option. But if a guy wants what he wants, which is a kid, like, I really don't think it's selfish for a man to use a surrogate. I think it's selfish for a woman to use a surrogate. And it's different because the women, like men naturally just have, like, they have structure, they have order, they're selfless, and they have all these skills. They have all these amazing skills that they can pass on to the kids. Women have trauma they can pass on to the kids. Women pass on their trauma. Men pass on their expertise, right? Like Beyonce, you know why Beyonce was such an amazing mother? Or sorry, not mother. Do you want to know why Beyonce was such an amazing singer? Because her parents got a music teacher to live with her. And that's why she has such an amazing voice, because this teacher taught her from the time she was a kid. I just think if I think of a single father home, I think of paradise on earth. I literally, what I am envisioning is paradise. Why do women want the ring? Because with the ring, they know there's 1,000 more times more difficult to cut her loose. Yeah, and she's getting older and uglier. Rich cooked this entire debate. Yeah, and I understand why you'd say I'm with Doug, because I think it's kind of an icky feeling. Like, it kind of feels icky, you know, to do the surrogacy. It feels icky, but honestly, I don't think it's a bad thing, because like, what is best for the kids, that would be like, if anything, I think it's almost more selfish to have a kid with a woman in this economy. I think it's more selfish, because you're saying, I want this love and affection that, you know, deep down women aren't going to give you. And you're saying, oh, well, I want some help to raise the kid, right? But you know, women aren't going to do that either. And you know, it's going to fail. So it's like, you're asking this woman, you're basically saying, because like, I want my child to be tortured, because it's worse for the kids, because you got to work, right? Obviously the woman's going to do nothing. And now the kid gets tortured. You know, like, come on, any guy in the chat, you just know you would raise a good kid. You know that if you had ultimate authority, right, you would raise a good kid. You would raise a beautiful child. I just know you would, right? But it's like the women just get in there and they just ruin it. My mom was so evil. Like, can you just imagine your childhood without your mother? I bet you 85% would be better. Well, and you know, the guys with good moms is like, oh, well, I had a good mom. Why are you bragging? You know, that's not the norm. You know, like 85% of mothers are crazy. You know it. I paid child support for 27 years. Wouldn't your life have been easier if you just paid a bitch to have your kid? Wouldn't your life have been easier, right? Wouldn't that just have been more effective? Women figured it out. And, you know, it's like, why are men expected to do the right thing when women aren't? So, okay, do the right thing, do it in a 2-parent home. Well, I mean, yeah, that's fine and dandy when you're not negotiating with terrorists. But women have a terrorist level of power that we're not willing to give up. Until women collectively give up their power, I think surrogacy is fair game. I think surrogacy, because that's the only way you can have the best environment for a child, which is patriarchy. Patriarchy is what's best. A man making the final decision. And that's why I just never understood, you know, Doug MP, I think, leans more this way. Kevin Samuels leans more this way. They say, but Pearl, you know, you have to do it the right way in the context of a marriage. I'm like, the right way according to who? Women? Like, what we want to, like, because if patriarchy is what's right, you're just etching further away from patriarchy. Like, you're just going like further and further, and you're getting like, you're saying give the woman more leverage or you're immoral. Why? You guys can put your arguments in the chat and I'll, you know, but I just don't. Yeah. God, man, women, children. But, you know, because women love single dads. So then you can, if you want, maybe your second kid could be like for real, right? Like, you could have it with a mother and a father, but at least that first kid, you can, you know, you can at least fire her. And then, you know, she's got like 5 years to like, and you could just lie, right? Just say you have a kid with a crackhead. Just say, you know, I had a kid with a crackhead and she kicked rocks. And you got to make sure, if you tell anybody, just make sure you don't tell any women, because the women will spill the secret. Just tell the man. The upside of surrogacy. No, there's huge upsides, right? One, I mean, your genetic lineage goes on. You get to have a family. You get to have a kid. Like that just sounds like heaven on earth. A family without a mother. Wow. Yeah, successful kids. You're 100% in control of how that kid turns out. Have kids with a younger woman to buy as much happiness until reality steeps into marriage. Have you seen the younger women now? I mean, they're on their phones. Good luck getting her off your phone to be a mom. I mean, this is what motherhood will look like. The kid will be like, I mean, at least, again, the nanny you could fire, you know. Raised my daughter on my own for 16 years and the pandemic hit. TikTok and Snapchat. Now she's gone. Haven't spoken with her in 5 years. Yeah. Make your home good yourself. Get meals delivered. Yeah. And you also won't have a lifetime of slavery, right? Because if let's say you're married and you have a lifelong marriage, it's not like you can take the bitch's like credit card away. I mean, women just swipe. And do you know what you could do with all that extra money that you're keeping now and not spending on our useless things? Oh, I don't know. The kid could have a college fund. You could maybe get some skating lessons like this woman here. Yeah, see, you're making the argument for surrogacy. Your mom was a scumbag most of my life. Yeah, I know. It would just be peace on earth. They're all saying it would have been perfect. Yeah, and even okay, so let's say you don't get a torturous woman, but you end up divorced. Like you most likely will end up divorced, right? Like is there some virtue in trying? It's like, oh, you need to try. Well, not really. Like, okay, if I look at a game and the game is completely rigged against me and I find a way to not play the game, which is surrogacy, now I'm a selfish person because I don't want to play a game that's stacked against me. If I was a man, I would get a surrogate. I would not give a fuck. I would not. Yeah, and co-parenting, even if she doesn't steal your money, right? Every time you piss her off, she's just going to tell the kids, and now the kids are weapons. The kids are weapons. What is Corky Thatcher maxing? It can come with a 100,000 mile limited powertrain warranty. Yeah, and you can edit out all the retarded genes. So like, you don't want a kid that's like let's say you want a handsome Chad, you can like edit it. And I know everyone's thinking, but Pearl, that feels wrong, right? Well, I mean, it's not like any of you asked to be born into this society, you know? Like that would be fair if you had the choice of a young bride that wanted to marry you and have your children. But most men don't get that choice. That's reserved for like Chad and Tyrone. And a lot of the best fathers, if we're going to be honest here, there's a reason women want to cuck them. Because we know on a genetic level, they would make good dads, but terrible lovers, That's why women are like doing these sexless marriages because they're like, I have to have a kid with this dork, but I'm going to have sex with him for a day. This is going to be terrible, and that's how women think, but so a lot of the men that would like, a lot of men, this is their choice. A most likely future of a sexless marriage because they're just never going to be a woman's first choice or really be that guy to a woman or, right? Or surrogacy. I think surrogacy is better, My mom was a pimp and a terrorist. Surrogate is the ultimate. I think it's the ultimate form of love for a man to a child, not a woman. I think if mom wants full custody, she should be able to provide for those children and not ask for child support from the other parent. The right way is according to the Bible. Well, the Bible way isn't an option. That is not an option in 2026. You don't get the choice of the Bible way. You don't, because the Bible way would not allow the woman to steal the kids and rob you. What if men's just take women's power? Yeah, but that's not going to happen. I'm not like these trad cons. They sell you hope that there's going to be some change. Most people are the men at the bottom or middle managers, right? Most of you don't have the choice to really impact society. I don't think surrogacy. I'm sorry. I don't think I don't think kids really need a mother. I don't. I think if I saw examples of mother, the best mother I know, there's a mother I'm thinking of, and she's the best, most involved parent I know. She still drove that whole house crazy. She was so hilarious, but oh my God, like me, right? Can you imagine just having me like giving my takes 24/7? It's like fun on a show because you can mute me or pause it, but this would drop. Like, imagine like I'm just in the kitchen complaining about Pajeets. You're like, I don't want to hear that. I want peace at my house. Women, we just have this chaos. Like, we don't bring peacefulness. I don't think we really bring any value like to a house. I think, we're lucky to get the value from the men. The men have the value, and sometimes they can pass it on to women who listen, but women don't listen. So, yeah, you're saying the father rule over women and children. Yeah, but it's impossible for a man to rule over the women. So, yeah, that's not a choice. You can't rule without authority. I've been following you for a long time. I love your points of view. I'm in LE. I see this stuff every day, how courts treat the men. I don't know, because this guy in China did it, and his kid is an Olympian, right? She's a non-political Olympian. By the way, if you want to donate to the divorce documentary, the link to that is in the description. We're redoing our app, so this month, the best way to support me really is the divorce documentary donations, because we're about to switch everybody from one app to the other. Women can be ruled. Yeah, but you can also win the lottery. It doesn't mean it's really likely, You're like, oh, there's those like 3 people that did it. It's like, well, that's like 3 out of 100, Decent men want to be good fathers. In an indecent time period, history is like a rubber band. It tends to snap back at a certain point, whether or not society's ready or not. That's a catastrophic thing to believe. Look, that train of thought Yes, it does snap back, but how long do you think it took Rome to fall? It took like 250 years. I think even some historians say longer. So that's like 3 or 4 generations. You'll be dead by the time it snaps back. Like maybe, okay, maybe when, like by the time it snaps back, you're gonna be dead or close to it. You know, close enough to it. Who cares? Children need their mother up to a certain point in life. Well, if that were true, why is the most okay? That's the dumbest take ever. Do you know anything about the child abuse statistics and infant mortality? Okay, really, kids need their mother. All right. Well, the most dangerous place that a kid can be in the mother's womb, right? Oh, well, kids, they really need their mother. It's like, well, then why are women so good at abusing their children? I don't know. Look, it's not. Women show love and support, really. Women show love and support if you do exactly what she wants. But as life goes on and she gets less of what she wants because she's uglier, right? You get uglier. And men, just even on a subconscious level, they treat you worse, even if they love you, like because you're old and ugly now. You know, you're an old, ugly woman. And so then you get less of what you want because men in general just aren't going to cater to you as much. And then women crash out and are not loving and supportive because they're not getting what they want. So Pearl's never met an actual patriarch. That's true. Actually, maybe 1 or 2. But even so, their wives were still, we just bring chaos, you know. But wouldn't that actually go to my point that most men are not going to get women that listen to them? You know. $250 years, yeah, around that. Okay, so we're about, let's see, I think everything started going to shit maybe when women got the right to vote. Okay, so that was like 1920. Now we're in 2026, I think. 106 years. Okay, so if we go at Rome's pace, it'll fall apart by the time I'm super dead. Like, okay, so I'm 29. And then we go down to, okay, so, all right, let's see, 250 minus, okay. Yeah, so I'll be dead. I mean, that's the math. I'll be dead. I'll be dead, you know, so you might win the lot. You're like saying, well, you might win the lottery someday. Well, honestly, real question. I know I just talk. What's going to happen when women hit retirement? I watched a woman cry because of a dental bill. Reality is coming. So what happens next? Well, it's called prostitution. It's going to get legalized. And a lot of those, you're going to have a lot of old hookers on the street. Gluck 9,000. Gluck 9,000. AI, I won't have to wait long. AI and robots will fast track the 200-year timeline. Well, that's what people can predict, but everything seems to be going kind of fine. You know, I think AI is just going to move more people into the service industry because young women will okay, this is what's going to happen. Young women are going to be soft prostitutes or full prostitutes, right? So that's young women are going to do OnlyFans, sugar babies, etc. So that's how they're going to get money from men. Now, young women or debt, you know, college debt. So now young women have all this spending, or maybe their father's money. Now young women have the ability to spend a bunch of money, and everybody's trying to get it from them, even though it's indirectly men's money, right? And so what's going to happen is there's going to be all these useless services. It's already happening, like in front of my eyes. Like if I go to my gym, right, and I have an expensive gym, I love this gym and it's worth every penny. However, there's a bunch of add-ons. So when I go to my gym, there's all this stuff. I don't buy it because my gym's, it's like expensive. Well, all right, I get it now and then, but I can see what's happening, right? Because I live it. There's all these services coming in to take women's money that's like totally overpaid. So if I go to the gym, I can get a stretch, like essentially a stretch session where they do like deep stretching. I can get a massage. I can get my eyebrows done. I got my hair dyed at my gym. I can sign up for daycare, right? So this gym, they're even going to add in apartments on some of this, like at some of these gyms. So these places are going to just they're going to offer overpriced apartments. They're going to offer that's what's going to happen. There's like Pilates, like one-on-one classes I can sign up for. And this is going to be everywhere. Volleyball, right? Volleyball used to be something you paid for your kids. Now people aren't having kids. I pay like $50 a month for a membership to like play volleyball. So I can like play whenever I feel like playing at these like leagues. On top of that, there's a nail place like by me. So when I go to the nail place, I can go and get my nails done if I want. It's not really my thing. I'm more of a gym person, but like if I want to, I can go get my nails done. I can get the next door to the nail place is a Botox and filler place, right? Like you can at the nail place, you can get really expensive nails where they put fake nails on. You can get eyelash extensions. You can get their spray tans. And then I go home, right? And I can either walk to the grocery store or they can Uber Eats and do delivery. And that's how a bunch of people will make money. Now there's meal prep services. So you can get that too. You can get a cleaner, And so what's going to happen is the people that are high status, which is high earning men and young women, are essentially going to be like the high status part of society. And then normal earning or low earning men are going to somehow get money from the hot women. So it's like married women or young women, either through sex work, marriage, etc. So the money's going to go to the men that are high earning. They're going to give it to the women, sugar baby, whatever it is. Then the women are going to buy stuff they can't afford. They're going to save none of the money. So that's going to be rent that they cannot afford, laundry service. Like young women, they don't know how to do anything. So yeah, and that's really what's just going to keep happening. So like when the women age out of the sexual marketplace, well, what's going to happen is they're going to get a service industry job. And that's kind of what you see people like going towards. Like they're going to work as service workers to the high status people, whether it's through delivery, Uber. That's what I think is going to happen. So once China, yeah, but this is kind of what people in media want to sell you. They always want to sell you hope and say, oh, it's going to get better. It's like, no, what indication do we have that it's going to change? Once China reveals a child growing in a tank, you'll see corporations in the U.S. drool over a new market. With the wedding market and the baby market crashing, you can bet corporations will push it hard. Look, I mean, remember, 90% of people used to be farmers, and then factories came in. Like, it's just going to move it to different industries. Marrying a mid is a selling point after the risks of marriage. Not being able to remarry is too high. You could be a tyrant if you wanted to. Not really. Mids can totally bang out of their league, and that'll convince them that they can marry out of their league. I was talking to this first responder today, okay? And he was telling me how you could tell. Actually, I'm gonna do that at a different day. I'm gonna actually do that riff on a different day. See what else is in the chat before I start reacting to this. Pearl needs super chats. I do. You guys are kind of cheap sometimes. I mean, not always, but sometimes I'm like, don't make me pause the show. I might need a minimum. I am a tyrant here. Cheap apartments above Costco. Good luck getting young men to buy a house and raise a family. No, it's true. However, it's going to go for women too. So you're almost going to get communities that are attached to like businesses of some sort. And I kind of see it like at my gym, there's people that have been going there 5 to 10 years that know like everybody there. Like a lot of them don't have kids. And I'm like, it's kind of like their version of a family, Driverless cars will replace Uber drive. Don't worry. There's an endless list of like useless things you can sell to women. It's endless. Right. Okay. I'll just think of things that I've either bought or been marketed to me. Let me just think. So I'm just kind of embarrassing. I'm really trying to get my split. So I did buy the Stretch Lab thing, or it's like a stretch thing at my gym. And this is just, I don't know how to put it. Like, if anyone knows where your adductors is, it's like your inner thigh. And it's very difficult to like stretch without somebody like pushing. It's very hard to describe. It sounds weird, but like without someone pushing down on it. I don't know. There's a certain way it moves. Anyways. And same with like your leg. Like when you're first stretching, you want to push your leg. Anyways, who cares? It was like $180 for an hour session, a Stretch Lab session. So I was like, oh, wow, can't buy that. I'll just admit it. I bought it, but I don't get it often. That's like a special thing, But yeah, there's going to be childcare, fertility now the plastic surgery industry. I mean, yeah, by the way, guys, I ask service workers like all the time what they see. I am constantly asking service work, like just today, right? There's a Stretch Lab. It's not Stretch Lab, but it's like a stretch guy at my gym. I ask him what he sees because he has conversations with a lot of people. I also ask, there's a guy in my gym that's a paramedic, right? He's telling me about the types of things he sees. But the stretch guy, he said that, because they were talking about nursing being a hard job. And I said, I don't think it's hard. I think women just like to complain. And he said, yeah, but a lot of them will do nursing and they say it's too hard and they go into plastic surgery. So that's going to be huge. Like the high status women are going to want to keep being in the high status group. So they're just going to make new technology. Like, okay, let's go through some of the tech that's out there. There's like Korean, like if I walk down, there's this part of Dallas that's like pretty nice. I was looking at the sign, the shop today, and it has like Korean skincare, PFP cell rejuvenation, Botox, filler, eyelash extension. Like I know women that spend over 10 grand a year to maintain their looks. I promise to God, there is going to be no shortage of useless shit to sell to women. That will never end. That will never end as long as the woman's pretty and can get money from that. I'm not going to show you what the adductors are because it's just not I'll show you on screen. Okay. I'll show you on screen. I'm not. All right. So if you want to do the splits, I don't know if anyone cares. I talk about the splits a lot because I'm very excited for this goal. Okay. I've been inflexible my whole life and I'm I am in a not cute way passionate about this. Like I am, because I've just been the least flexible person ever. So adductor is here. If you see, it's like these inner thigh muscles. So if you can't sit cross-legged, it's because your adductors are tight. And for me personally, that in the that's been the hardest muscle to like stretch to get the splits. So 180 an hour. Yeah. So if women were virgins and pure, but women aren't virgins and pure. So dumb question, you know? BBL touch-ups. Yeah. Because look, like let's take, BBLs, you know, the women, then there's going to be the women that took it, that they got bad BBLs and they need it removed. They're always so tight. Okay, I found the best way to stretch them. Okay, I know. All right. If you don't want to pay a stretch session, you got to go to your adductor machine and put the weight really high, and the machine, like it goes in your inner thighs and you're supposed to push it in, right? But if you like put it further out, if you're inflexible, you can put it further out than is comfortable, put the weight really high and it just holds your adductors there. And then you can like lean forward. It's actually pretty nice. Anyways. But yeah, everyone's saying, everyone's saying there's going to be a lack of jobs. I don't know. I think it's just like I do think like the lower class are going to get lower and lower wages. And there's going to be a bigger divide between high status and low status society. Unfortunately, the men will be okay because a lot of the men's industries are going to be stable because you need truckers. I guess maybe if we get self-driving cars, that would be a problem. But like what else have I seen? You know, these like volleyball, volleyball, right? I played volleyball as a kid and I had a pretty semi-professional career till I was like 27. I'm going to do a tournament next month. That's going to cost money. If I wanted to, I don't because I just have better things to do now. If I wanted to, I could join a semi-professional up to a professional level team and do that like 40 hours a week. And they could take my money there. I can pay for I get ads all the time on Instagram from like a volleyball coach who said he wants to coach people between like 25 and 40. It's like, why would he want to coach them and do like training? Oh, it's because, you know, they have money. Can't you make a list of stretches? Yeah, you can. To be honest, I actually do that. I remember. And then I just have Nuke do it. Yeah, plumbers. And this is the great thing. Again, it's the service economy. So a lot of the tradesmen, they're going to be employed forever. Women are going to keep buying houses they can't maintain. And then they're just going to be milked. Like the money, women aren't, it's not really going to make sense for women to own a house anymore because they're going to keep increasing the prices of houses. That's going to keep realtors in business. And now plumbers and electricians are going to be car mechanics. All of those industries are going to go up. Yeah, like you said, I make candles. I mean, I would just find a way to charge women $1,000 for some specialty candle that is like I would make a specialty candle that I could charge women $1,000 for. And I would call it like I would make it something to do with astrology, some astrology bullshit. I would put it in there and I would say, yes, women, this is maybe like you can curse your ex with this candle. I don't know. Like, I just don't really see AI. Like, if anything, AI is going to make the gender divide worse because a lot of the things you would ask men for, you can just ask AI. Like, you know, we're going back to villages. I don't think so at all. I actually think it's going to be more cities. I think villages are going to disappear. Not one super chat. All of this hilarious riffing and not even one super chat. It's like, what am I here for? What am I here for? I should have started an OnlyFans. I bet somebody in the chat would pay for that. It's like, what am I doing? What am I doing with my life? I should have been a sex worker like the rest of these. I'm just kidding. I'm just messing. I'm just messing. Hey. It's not begging. It's called nagging. Look into it. I'm just messing. All right. We're going to actually watch this debate now that we've hung out for an hour. I got to talk about my splits training. Thank you for the super chat. Thank you. That's what I was waiting for. You see my face light up. Yeah, no, but I bet there's some stupid woman out there. There's some stupid woman that you could, if you made a candle that's like special or something, like you could just convince her. You could just convince, I don't know, but like whatever you do, I would just find a way to sell whatever you do to stupid women. But here's the problem. Men do have consciences. So, you know, there's also a whole healthcare industry. Like healthcare is going to go from, you know, because women are going to keep being fat, right? So there's going to be all these industries that are made just off of women's poor choices. So like one bad choice is women are fat. And being fat causes all these other issues. Like being fat, I would say, is a symptom of not being able to cook. Pomegranate. See, he's coming together at the candle. And so like you're going to have like, there's all these hormone and they might even be true, right? They like the hormone doctors might actually be accurate in like diagnosing some of the problem. Like, you know, then you get allergies and now you have an underdeveloped face. That happened to me. Now I have TMJ, right? So hypothetically, someone could milk me for the TMJ, solve that problem, you know. But most like, you know, back home, like there was a nutritionist that I went to a few times. I just got it to get the scan. They have like a super accurate scan there. But even that, like a man would be like, why don't you just use the scale? Like, it's just, we're so stupid. And do you know what it's like being me? Because it's like, I know like people will, and this is the hard thing as a commentator, is people tell you you're smart all the time, but I am sure to never believe it. I'm sure to never believe it because just the amount of dumb shit I do, it's just incredible. Just incredible. You know what I mean? It's like, how would you oversell to women? So when you want to sell to women, you want to add in some useless shit that makes them feel good. So like there's this expensive dentist I got a quote from the TMJ stuff. And like they asked me if I wanted what was it called? Like an eye mask in the lobby. How much do you think that eye mask costs? And the little things like that, like I don't know what you could do for plumbing. I mean, you're a man, you could think about it. Yeah, just like Pilates. Well, but you have to understand the classes are because women don't want to teach ourselves how to like lift and like okay, when I'm learning something like the stretching stuff, I had to learn so much stuff. Like I have to learn what the adductors are, and you have to do all this work and really learning the best way to do something. Classes like personal trainers, all this stuff, it just helps you skip the learning stuff because we're kind of like slow. So we can't do the learning. So, it's like easy for me to just pay $180 an hour and just say, fix my problem. But it'll never be fixed really as a woman. You got to know this. I like paying men to teach me things, but they cannot do it for you. They have to teach it to you. Why is Pearl into stretch? I'll tell you why. I don't think I should talk about this that much on my show because it's very unrelated. But it's kind of like, you ever like do something? I don't know, like some guys, one time I saw this guy in the park and he had like this, the metal thing. And I asked him about it and he was just so excited to talk to me about it. He just for hours was like, he talked my ear off about the history of the park and it was so interesting. Actually, I actually enjoyed the conversation. That's how I feel about stretching because, the bad things about being unflexible were just such big pain points for me in my life. For years, I couldn't sit cross-legged and I just felt like I was just born inflexible. I didn't realize I could fix it. So when I learned the tools to like fix it, I'm like, I want to go all the way with this because this was just such a big pain point for me. This candle has a super floral scent. You'll love it. Or the super has a super floral scent. Okay. No comment. No, the marriage documentary, it's going. We're just, we're waiting on the contract from the lawyer, but it's happening. It's happening. All right. Flexibility is a superpower. Yeah, I'm like mad I didn't realize how important it was when I was younger. Because I could talk about flexibility for like an hour. I really could talk about it for an hour. That's how passionate I am about it. Because I was always really strong and I was always athletic, but it just hindered me in so many. I keep going. I keep talking about it. I can't stop. I love talking about it. I'm so passionate. All right, I'm done. I'm going to shut up. We're here to talk about women, Mary. Oh, no, the adductors are there. So the other muscle. Sorry. All right. I'll listen for the flexa. Oh, don't do that to me. Don't do that. Look, I'll tell you this. I'm almost at my front splits. In my experience, it takes if you're terribly inflexible, it'll take you 2 years of being pretty consistent with it, like a few times a week stretching. And it feels so, you don't even know it's like a pain you didn't even know that you had. Yeah. All right, let's watch the debate.
Interesting phenomenon when you get two men together who agree on many, many things, but disagree on some core issues. So kind of the audience is now in a position to see the clash of ideas and make up their own mind. That's what the point is. In this particular case, we're diving into if marriage in the West is good for men. For the Christian ethicist, in this case me, this is a tough topic to navigate because it's full of nuance and the ideas have to be scrutinized through a lens of non-Christians. And you have to do that so that they'll understand where you're coming from. And I need to do it in a way that still supports the Christian view. Many people have trouble with nuance because they take critical thinking about a position as the adoption of the position itself. This is mostly just due to the fact that many people are fucking stupid. And there isn't anything I can do about that, so I don't even try. Instead, I want to meet them where they are and criticize the portions of the ideology I think are incorrect and allow them to do the same. In the case of Mr. Cooper, we will tangle on this core idea. Is marriage worth it or not? That's what it's going to come down to. And to explore Mr. Cooper's view on this, I've taken some time to review a lot of his content. I haven't read his entire book, but I have read many excerpts from it. And so, of course, I'm not going to be able to glean all the insight. I just didn't have time to read it. But here's what I got of his basic view. His view is totally rational, according to both his book and online videos. Essentially, the view is that the risk of marriage is due to the overlapping of the state, and in the view of a contract, it's a really bad deal for men. Because marriage is a contract with the state, and the state is seemingly biased against men, men have a lot to lose when it comes to assets and their most important asset, which is their children, to rulings which are unfair to the man when it comes to divorces. This is mostly true, and you're not going to get any argument from me on this. Further, he expands that the chances of divorce are very high. He cites 50% in many cases, but it's actually closer to 40, at least for first-time marriages. But in the spirit of good faith, I'm also going to kind of concede that that's pretty damn high. So another point of concession there. The rub comes in when we start to dive into these numbers, as
why does it say Lord Jake?
They're actually very deceptive. Let me give you an example of why we have to be cautious on this. An off-cited reference by the Manosphere is that while it's true, men are most of the workplace fatalities which happen in the USA, especially the total, these fatalities are quite low. You'll hear feminists talk about this as well. That's kind of an overlap that they have, at least in totality. But the reason why this is important is because when we break down the fields in which men are actually dying, the majority of them are in construction, logging, and fishing. So if you wanted to mitigate risk when it came to work, for instance, you would probably tell men not to avoid working in jobs which are physically perilous, but to avoid working in specific jobs which are very perilous, because those are where you're going to incur the most amount of risk of death.
Yeah, but it's a little bit different because, like, I don't think it's a good analogy, because some men like that adventure and they kind of like the risk of death, and the upside is they get like the respect at their job, because men care about being respected. And if you do a super dangerous job, it's not really like the fear of death. I don't really think most men fear death. What is worse than death is another man banging your wife and raising your kid while you're in a different house. I think that was like worse. So I don't really, you guys can tell me. I just, like, I don't know. The guys that do the super dangerous jobs that I've spoken to, even like crab fishermen, they don't seem like resentful that they do these dangerous jobs. If anything, they kind of, they get paid, they get compensated for it. But it's someone else is banging my wife and raising my kids. I think that is almost like worse, Yeah, and you pay them to exist while you're broke and starving. I don't really think that's the same. So,
which means
I don't like debate. I don't like debates, partially because I'm not that good at them. But I just think differently. Like, it's always like whoever talks fast and uses these, like, they'll compare things that I just don't. It's just so much better to talk to boots on the ground. It's why I always talk to service workers. Always. And I ask them like questions, and you just get way more information than some guy reading a study.
in order to avoid these risks in the workplace and serious injury, these fields are likely best avoided. And that's how you would do risk mitigation in marriage. It's no different. There are high risk groups and there's low risk groups. The Amish, for instance, have an almost zero divorce rate. You heard that right?
Yeah, but okay, that doesn't really. Okay, what percent of women are Amish in America? Like, that's what they do in these debates. It's like, that's not really a good argument. Okay, there's 400,000 Amish. Oh, total. 345 million in the US. So it's 0.12% of the population, according to Grok. And plus, I've seen shows where, hold on. Like, I've seen shows from ex-Amish, and a lot of times the women do the same thing. Like here. This girl.
Lizzie Enns, and I come from the strictest form of Amish community. And today,
Okay, yeah, she's got fake hair, bow tie. You see what I'm saying? It's like
I want to share with
and
you.
she's overweight, you know. This girl is literally from an Amish community. You know. Okay, let me go back.
Right, 0. You can source this from Amish studies at Elizabethtown College, with researchers confirming this. Mennonites are about 1%, Mormons 18%, same with Catholics, Orthodox Christians even less than that, 11% to 12%. Muslims very low as well. Atheists surprisingly have only an 11% chance, but that's because they basically avoid marriage and get married very late in life. Christians in name only are what are considered nominal Christians.
Yeah, and so, but what they always do is they say, like, these people aren't real Christians. And I don't really like that argument, because it's always just conveniently whatever the podcaster just happens to be doing right now. They didn't have to do it for a lifetime. It's just like, okay, I'm currently going to church, or I'm currently doing this. It's like, okay. Like, what does, I don't know. Even like when they say, oh, you have to go to church. It's like, okay, well, my dad has lived a better, like, more religious life than 99% of Christians. But he's not, because he doesn't go to church. I don't know. All right, let me keep going.
These are people who don't go to church. They don't really do much in the way of religious practices. Actually have a much higher
But okay, they don't, like, isn't it? I don't know. It just sounds elitist to me. Like, okay, you realize they're shift workers that just don't go, like, they're busy, you know? All right, let me, like, okay, yeah, it's easy for us to go to church. We have the time. You know what I mean? Like, we're influencers. We're like, you know, and it's always like convenient because everyone becomes religious when they become an influencer. It's like, yeah, it's easy to when you have the time, you know. I don't know.
Percentage rate of getting divorced because of the self-ID. And there basically isn't anything to distinguish them from secularists or agnostics. And that's why those numbers are so high. When broken down by group, it gets even more low the more religious you are. And if you add a prenup to it, the risk becomes almost non-existent for most people. Suddenly, the threat of divorce seems actually quite low, depending on the group you're a part of. While I would suppose you wouldn't want to be part of the 17 or 18% in these groups, telling men that they have an 80 or 90% chance that their marriage will work out shifts the picture entirely. The breakdown is suddenly far less daunting, and the risk is now much more manageable as far as these categories go. This nuance is often missed in this conversation, but it should be highlighted. Marriage isn't very risky for people in these groups. It's risky for people who are in the secular groups, because those groups map on to the national average almost identically.
Yeah, and so commentators like using studies because it gives them more power. So, like, if he says, oh, my study, which a lot of times, I'm trying to remember, I made a video on why the stats he's going to quote are wrong. I have to go back, but they always just find a way. They like do the smallest population. Like, for example, they'll say, oh, people that go to church couples that go to church every day. Well, if she decides she doesn't want to go to church every day, now you're not included in that statistic. You can't force someone to do things, right? But commentators, they like using studies, and maybe it's a necessary evil, but it's because it gives them more power. Like, I know I have cousins that are from the super religious communities. And one of them ended up in a throuple. One literally ended up in a throuple from a Latin Mass Catholic community. So it's like, okay, you want me to believe your study. Now I'm not supposed to believe my eyes. Like, I grew up, I find it more insulting when it's Catholicism, because I'll think, you think I don't know Catholic women? Really? I went to Catholic school and they're like, oh, it's not real Catholic unless it's Latin Mass. And I'm like, well, I had cousins that went to Latin Mass. And you're going to tell me that you know more? Fuck you. Like, not obviously, all respect to Andrew, as I said at the beginning. I just disagree, right? I don't think, like, I'm not going to let a commentator tell me that they know better Catholic people. They don't,
39% to 41%. Give you an example of this.
Doug MP, can you remind me what it was? I don't remember why are these stats misleading? I know we went through the Catholic stats. I don't remember why. It was so long ago.
5 to 10% of people who ever drink alcohol will become alcoholics. That could be argued to be very, very, very high risk, I suppose, but most men look at the risk factor and consider the trade-off acceptable and reasonably low for what they get out of the behavior of socially drinking. So as to the question, is marriage worth it in the West, specifically here in the United States, which is what we're talking about, for many men, yes, and for many men, no. Specifically secular men, it seems to be a big fat no. Their risk is on par with the national average, like I said. And this leads to cohabitation likelihoods, which become much higher, which leads to high risk for abuse for their children, along with other negative outcomes for their family dynamics. And those are the actual facts of the matter.
Right. But abuse comes from stepfathers. I'm pro surrogacy. You are saving your daughters from a stepfather, right? You don't do surrogacy because you want love. Boo-hoo. That's not in the cards. 2026. Go buy your baby, fellas.
Now, perhaps my opponent and I can...
Unless you're gay. You don't. You guys, we're good. You guys just end your genetic lineage now.
Agree these are facts, but he still feels the trade-offs aren't worth it, and we can dive into that. But I always view everything as a trade-off. Everything politically is a trade-off. It's always risk versus reward. Somebody's always going to get the shaft. So with that, that's my opening statement. And I would like to dive into these issues when my opponent's ready after his.
All right, Rich, you can have 6 minutes or so. Take as much or as little as you'd like.
Yeah, I won't need it. No, marriage is not worthwhile for a Western man living in the West. Thank you for attending my TED Talk. Let's get started, boys.
Okay. So when you say that marriage isn't worth it for men in the West, how are you viewing that? Are you viewing that through risk assessment?
Okay. Girls are going to see Wuthering Heights and loving it. It's a film about a man marrying a woman, giving her everything and cheating on him. Girls wish the adulterous relationships had a happy ending. That's true. Women always want to be with the side dude.
You're just doing like a basic risk assessment for men in general?
Yeah, broadly speaking, I would say it's a risk assessment. When you take a look at the landscape.
And that's the thing. A lot of times they're trying to sell you their religion. So they want you to convert. And that's like a full form of like controlling in a way. They want you to be a part of their congregation. So, because they believe either for money or because they believe you're going to hell if you don't. So they're not, I don't know. It's not really always the most honest.
I know that
because people have their egos invested, right? It's very hard. Like when you believe in something to say, okay, well, yeah, my religion isn't going to save me from this bitch.
Tend to separate divorce law from good marriage. But the reality of the world is that divorce is a reality for a good chunk of the guys that get married, about half of them. I know you're quoting divorce rates under 50%, but it seems widely accepted that when you blend in second and third marriages, it's well over 50%. But we'll just agree to disagree on that point. But yeah,
hang on.
And it's not really fair because they try to take out the second and third marriages. And they say, oh, just don't marry someone who's been divorced. But it's like, well, if you're on the dating market, that's part of your dating pool. Like, okay, if I were single, divorced men would be part of my dating pool. I'm 29. But even if I was 25 or 24, why would you not want to consider a guy that's divorced and 34 or 44, right? That's part of your dating pool. And as a guy, he might consider the 22-year-old, but she's out partying with her friends. She doesn't want to be a mom. There's a lot of decent women that get divorced. Their high school boyfriend just didn't do it for them. They were with him for a decade and then they're back on the dating market around my age, That's part of the dating market. That's part of the dating pool. So to just say, oh, don't count them. It's like, well, but single parents are part of the date. Like, look, at my age, like that would probably be half at least of the men I would go out with. Divorced dads should date divorced moms. I don't think so. Like, why would, as a woman with no kids, a dad with one kid, like a lot of times they want more, and a lot of times they're way easier to get to date you. Like a lot of times they're relationship guys. It's why the remarriage rate is so high, so.
We can get a point of clarification.
Sure, go ahead.
That first marriage is about 41%. Second,
like guys that haven't done it yet, it's because they're commitment phobes, right? Guys that have done it, they're like, they don't feel, if it's not like about half of them are going to get a decent divorce, so.
Third marriages actually get higher. Sometimes with 55 to 60% is cited then.
I got 52% here on my Grok search, but sure, we'll just split the difference.
Okay. But it's high. It's unnaturally high.
Yeah.
The question becomes, though, why is it that this is always assessed as a monolith? We don't assess anything else like that. Like how I was just speaking about workplace fatalities. You wouldn't tell men not to work with their hands because it's risky, but you might advise men not to get into really high risk fields where working with their hands is going to account for those negative outcomes. How come all is this always grouped as a monolith instead of being grouped into individualistic groups and assessed on high risk, low risk, which is what you would do with basically everything else on planet Earth?
Yeah, sure. I'm happy to answer.
Well, because that's slavery, right? I think slavery is, for a lot of men, that's worse than death. They would rather be dead than be enslaved too. And it's not even like, I almost think that a plantation owner would be better because it would be like a man would be in charge. Enslaved to a woman you used to bang while you're probably banging a woman younger and hotter than her, having her in control, that sounds like death. Death sounds better than that.
So that, well, when you're talking about marriage, you're not talking about jobs and careers because jobs and careers vary. I mean, I'll give you an example. When I was in high school, I did a co-op course for auto mechanics, and I've always been very interested in cars. I'm sure you're aware of that. So it's a hobby of mine. It's more of a pastime. It's enjoyable. And I realized working on cars at the time, because they used a lot of asbestos on the drum brakes, and I was always assigned as the guy that was going to do the repairs on drum brakes for some reason. Shocking, they give the kid, the new guy, that job. I didn't know a whole lot about the toxicity and the damage that you do to your body and your lungs over time until it hit me like a frying pan to the forehead. And I decided, I'm not going to do this job. This isn't something I want to make a career out of. Let's find something that's a little safer. So I moved from working with my hands and fixing cars to office work, I guess. You don't really have that choice with marriage. It's like if you live in a way that looks like marriage to the state, regardless of whatever it is you want to call it or how you want to blanket it, the way the government works is they examine your relationship. And even if it wasn't a marriage or even looked like marriage, there's been a number of circumstances and cases, which I'm happy to talk about, where they called it a marriage, even though the two people together did not call it a marriage and the people around them did not call it a marriage, or their kids did not call it a marriage. So I think
wouldn't that lead to my point though? So if it's the case that you're not advocating for marriage in low risk groups, that is necessarily going to lead to a larger amount of cohabitation. You're not protected from the state when you cohabitate, and the outcomes are generally worse anyway. But it doesn't really, none of this actually answers to the question of if it's the case that certain groups and certain belief structures and certain ways you live your life.
No one should date anybody divorced. Oh, I disagree. I think divorced men make better husbands. First time married men are going to simp. Sometimes divorced men have learned their lesson. maybe not a divorced woman, but a divorced man. Even for the men that see good church-going women, the fact is courts are stacked against men, and there's no incentive. There's too much incentive for the wife to leave. Yeah, I mean, if anything, they get a worse deal because they get the most run-through women.
Lead to a much, much more diminished chance of divorce, then why would you advise people, like, for instance, let me give you the easy example, the Amish. What would your objection be to Amish people getting married? They basically never get divorced.
Yeah, and that works out well for them right now.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of cultural values that support.
Yeah, and how long can you keep these women away from social media? Hold on. I'm fairly sure TikTok Amish. I'm pretty sure I saw some women shaking ass on TikTok. I could be wrong. I could be wrong. Okay, let me see. Share this page. There's no sound. I saw this other video of like Amish girls doing like a Amish trend, which who knows if it was real, but I promise to God. Okay, here. Now, are these really Amish girls? I don't know. It says they're mocking them. I wouldn't be shocked if this is in the future, though. You see, I got to turn off the sound. But you see, they're like, yeah, anyways. And plus, I've seen there's Amish women that run away from the Amish. I mean, yeah. Okay, let me keep going.
Support that. There's a lot of environmental factors that support strong unions into perpetuity with the Amish, right? That doesn't exist in the rest of the world.
It does. It does. The idea in religious marriage, and the reason the divorce rates are so much lower, when you dive into the literature behind this, because it's actually a very studied phenomenon, because of a support network.
With the Amish, you're saying?
No. Actually, to all of these various religious groups that I cited. This would include Mormons, Catholics, Orthodox, various reasons cited for their divorces and why the divorce rates are so much lower than the national average. And it seems to really come down to this, and this is a concession I can generally get out of the people I debate in your sphere, because I think it's just kind of obvious and true, that if women don't have a reinforcement mechanism for behaviors, then, and this is true of men too.
Ought argument, and that's what you tend to do. You give ought arguments rather than.
No, this is a descriptive is argument.
Yeah, and that's why it's like, Andrew, do you really know much about have you even I would need to go to an Amish community and talk to them to do definitive, because you really got to go there to see. The Amish have a little party hard for a space before they choose to be Amish as adults. It's called Rumspringa. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of women that go to Rumspringa and don't come back.
Is the case right now, factually, that these rates of divorce in the highly religious are much, much lower than the national average. So significantly, in fact, that your chances of getting a divorce seem to be mitigated in the acceptable risk factor, at least in comparison to the historic standard. Mm-hmm. That's descriptively true. So that's not a prescription.
Like, are we talking about Christianity here?
No, we would talk. Well, no, what we're doing is we're isolating groups. So let's take all of marriage, and then we're going to break it into the categories of the people who are getting married. So so people who are getting married are going to fall under different categorizations. They could be secularists, they could be swingers, they could be, polygamy.
It's just like, look, why I left the Amish.
Hello, everyone. I want to introduce myself. Started asking the questions that I had, and I didn't get a clear answer from anyone.
Yeah, so she leaves.
If the Amish husband cheats and doesn't apologize, he won't get accepted back into the church, so he will still just stay shunned, although he will stay married to his wife. And if the wife doesn't want to take him back and she's a church member, she would get shunned then for not wanting to take him back. And her only option other than taking him back would probably be leaving the Amish.
Yeah, see, look, it's.
What if your wife came out?
Chances. Might, maybe. Yeah.
So if you don't go back, do they just like kick you out of the community?
Yeah, they would. Mm-hmm.
But you could never go back?
If I proved myself, yeah, I could.
How do you prove yourself to come back?
Like, come back and obey, I guess. Like,
Yelling in the Amish hats and shit.
What if your wife came out?
Yeah, you see, it just, yeah, it's not a guarantee.
They could be atheists. They could be devout Catholics. They could be devout Orthodox. The thing is, the reason it's more useful to break it up that way is because then we can peer in and see if each of these groups has the same exact risk as each other group when it comes to marriage, and we find out that's not the case at all. And that these risks are mitigated descriptively right now if you're part of a religious organization that is much more devout. And the more religious you are, seemingly the more happiness you report and the lower your divorce.
Look, one of the worst divorces I ever saw was a Latin Mass divorce. God will not save you from these hoes.
Rates become.
So your answer is just be more religious.
No, what I'm asking is, what is the thing that's causing that? What is the thing that's causing these groups to have such a more mitigated amount of divorce in comparison to the national average from secularists? What is it?
That it's written to encourage women to leave men and divorce rape them?
Wait, what was that? I'm sorry.
Do you want to start with family law and how it's written to encourage women to divorce rape men?
I'm not disputing that.
Okay. Well, that's a problem.
It just doesn't have any, because you're not contending with my point. What are the things inside of these religious institutions?
Is that still a valid threat?
Yeah, but what are the things inside of these religious institutions?
Yeah, because it's going to go back to that. If you're super religious and you pray super hard, God will save you. And then that's a woman that if she's super religious and you guys go to church and do it that way, you're significantly less likely to get divorced. And they kind of manipulate these statistics because a lot of times they pull older people. They include people that have not divorced yet. And so like they'll include someone that's 30 or 35 and got married. The other thing they're not taking into account is a lot of times it's older people. So you're really not going to know what the impacts are of people that get married today. Like if anything, I would guess the divorce rate's going to be higher for people that get married today because the people that got married 50 years ago and were a part of these religious communities, I mean, they didn't have social media. So, you know, they manipulate these stats terribly. A lot of times the commentators don't realize how badly the stats are manipulated, or maybe they want to believe it because that's their argument. But yeah, they completely misrepresent these statistics. And there's a lot of fact. Like one thing is the woman, it says, okay, the couples that go to church like 3 times a day or something is one of the studies they quote. Well, okay, but a woman that doesn't obey her husband and he says, I'm going to church. And she says, well, I'm not going to church. What's he going to do? Put a gun to her head, nag her? She's not going to do it. So now they might have started in the religious marriage, but it doesn't account for people that started going to church and then stopped. Like it actually, when I hear these statistics, it actually makes me so mad. And I really don't know if it's cognizant or not. Like, I don't really know if the people know, but it's like, I don't understand why they manipulate them so badly. Like I'll go on these shows and they'll quote these statistics and I'm like, why are you guys like quoting it like that? Okay.
that is causing this mitigation where the risk is so much lower than the national average from people who are not inside of these religious institutions. Not asking whether or not people should be more religious. I'm asking us to make an assessment on what are the factors here that are contributing to them having
I think
such a low
surrogacy is the best way moving forward. That sounds amazing.
rate in comparison to the national average. That's the question.
Okay, so what's the difference in rates between Christians and non-Christians?
Depends on the denomination. But I just went through them broadly. I can go through. I can go through them again if you'd like. Here, I'll pull them back up 1 second.
And then what they'll always do is it's like the bar will just get it. Like they want to be right, and this is hard because like I also grew up with these beliefs, but like you believe in your religion and you think, well, the people that do the moral thing, they have to get a good outcome, but it's just not true. It is just not true. It's not true at all. And they're going to reframe it and then they'll just do a higher and higher bar. Like, okay, if your wife is fat and she doesn't cheat, does it mean anything? Oh no, I got a 4 to stay loyal. It's like, yeah, well, that's a 4. Nobody wants her anyway,
Yeah. Just average amount.
So when we're going through each denomination, we can start with, we'll kind of start with the lowest risk. The lowest risk is going to be the Amish, right? Second is going to be Mennonites. Then you're going to have Mormons and Catholics at almost the same rate. Orthodox at a lesser rate than that, about 12.
Well, and Hindu is up there, but it's like either it's some sort of like Eastern religion is up there too. Yeah, okay, Doug MP. I made a video about this a while ago. It's just I have a bad memory sometimes, so I can't quote it. But Doug MPA is typing me the video, so I'm gonna read it. Why these stats are misleading.
%. And the list from there goes on and on. The more traditional the value set is with what are called Protestant high churches, meaning the more they go to church and things like this, they end up in a risk mitigation that's almost 20% lower than the national average as well. The only Christians who fall into the same average as non-Christians are going to be what are called nominal Christians. So these are people who self-ID as being a Christian or cultural Christianity, but they don't actually involve themselves in the church or in that lifestyle at all. They just call themselves that. That's called nominal Christianity.
Well, I appreciate the lesson there, but you still didn't answer the question. What's the difference in the divorce rates between Christians and non-Christians? Let's just use atheists as an example.
It's as high as 25%. The distinction between that and the national average. The reason atheists
versus 25%.
What's that?
So it's 9% versus 25% is what you're saying.
Well, again, it depends on the denomination.
Okay.
The question's lacking specificity.
Okay, but using the Christians versus the atheists, you're saying it's 9% versus 25%.
No. Atheists are about 11% roughly, depending on which source you're looking at. But the reason why atheists have a lower than the national average is because they get married much older usually, or they just don't participate at all. But those are also self-ID'd atheists. When you're talking about secularists themselves, there's many, many more of them than there are atheists, and those seem to account for the overwhelming majority of what constitutes the national average for these things. So I'm looking for what are the things which is causing such a mitigation between the 40%, which is the national average, and the individualistic groups, which have much lower averages as low as 17, 18%. There's obviously.
All right. I'm reading some of this. I can't remember. I don't think it's called the fake TradCon grift video because I put that in the title and it didn't come up. I don't know. You can maybe put the link in the chat. From the U.S. Census Bureau, the divorce has gone from 55% to 45%. Marriage rates have decreased because the marriage rates have been cut in half. Pro-marriage advocates and TradCons manipulate these stats by targeting certain demographics with certain survey techniques and certain accounting to get to 25 to 35%. The most reliable estimates across the board is 40 to 45%, with the average length of a marriage being 7 to 8 years. Megan Cooper came up with a set of statistics that the TradCons use. She calculated the following stats. Divorce rate is 19%. For Catholics, Protestant 51, Mormon 9%, Jehovah's Witness 9%, Orthodox Christian 9%, born again Christians 33%, Muslims 8%, 51%. Protestant rate is what's most commonly parroted, and it's a miscalculation. This one was done deliberately to try to trick men into becoming a trad con so they have a better chance at marriage. These numbers are not a lifetime divorce rate. It is a number of people divorcing at any given time, not the lifetime count of divorces. The divorce rate for atheists is 2%. People with no religion have a divorce rate of 48%. Protestants have a rate of 46%. Catholics at 35%. Gonna keep going.
Obviously, something going on in these religious groups that's causing them to divorce much less than non-religious groups.
Well, in most religions, it tends to enforce the marriage and the consistency of it. Yeah.
Yeah. So then the idea is
So it would
that-
seem that it is a little bit more successful. Yeah. But
Yeah.
that still doesn't remove the risk factors, and it doesn't also address the issues of modern women not being marriageable material.
Well, hang on. Those are two different arguments. Whether or not you think that modern women are marriageable, we're talking right now just about the risk of divorce. What do you consider to be an acceptable divorce rate?
And just because you're married, that doesn't mean it's a success. Like, okay, is it a successful marriage if the guy has had to live his life on the woman's like terms for the last 10 years, Hold on. Is that really successful?
Well, given family law, 0 would be acceptable.
So 0. Well, if that's the case, then there could never be an institution of marriage because there's always going to have to be at least some divorce, right? Based on some circumstance. That's reasonable within reason.
Yeah, sure. But given family law and how hostile it is toward fathers and the likely outcomes that exist with them, would you like me to go over the outcomes?
They can be real bad.
Yeah, they suck.
Yeah, but that's not what's in dispute here.
Okay, well, what are we in dispute of right now?
Well, what we're in dispute of is that how many of these men who are in these particular groups are ever going to have to deal with those outcomes if their divorce rates are really low because they're in those groups? It could be the case
Okay,
that
but so those men don't matter. That happens to, like, they don't matter. We're just gonna like say, oh, who cares? Well, what if you're one of those guys?
outcomes are bad.
Lower. It's not really low. It still exists.
But that's
I can
really
give you
low.
Lots of examples of,
What?
of guys that. Sorry.
Well,
go
you,
ahead.
you just try to get it to 0%, just like there's no divorce. That's not utopian.
Well, we don't care about 0%, but it's more like in a lot of these situations, the men are enslaved. Do you know what I mean? So it's like men don't fear divorce. They fear, paying money for their wife to bang another guy who's raising their kids. That's really what they fear,
It sounds very utopian to me.
What's wrong with that?
It's impossible, like pragmatically impossible, that you're going to completely eliminate divorce for any number of different reasons. One could just be easy, like somebody is diddling kids in the marriage. You're going to, they
Okay,
want a
but
divorce. That seems
why
rational
would-
to me.
Why would anybody invite the government into their life to make decisions about their wealth, their access to their children, how the knot is untied, the power shift that goes from him to her during the untying of the knot? Why would anybody want to take on that risk given the outcomes and how bad they are?
Because the outcomes are only bad if you get divorced. They're not bad if you
Right.
don't get divorced.
That's not true. That's not true. If you're in a sexless marriage, if you have a fat wife, like there's a lot of outcomes that are bad. Like just because, and by the way, just because you're like, if your wife could be in shape, but if she doesn't respect you, if she's cheating. So yeah, no, there's a lot of, that's just not true.
And so
Okay.
if your chance of mitigating the divorce is really high and your chances of not being divorced are over 80%, if you're part of one of these groups, then that seems like an acceptable risk mitigation, right?
Well, it's only marginally lower.
No, it's not marginally lower. It's much higher. I mean, much, much lower, significantly lower.
Right now, but you don't know that's why I don't like statistics. It's much better to just look at what's in front of you because a lot of times the stats won't catch up for like 20 years. I don't know. There's a guy in New York who married a supermodel and turns out she was doing prostitution on the side. Is that in the statistics? Is she going to answer that in a survey? yeah, my wife's banging me, but she's also having sex for money, you know. It's like, and a lot of tradcons see this as like removed, but it's becoming more and more common, you know.
11% compared to the 40%
40%
national average is what? Go ahead. Sorry.
You're giving me numbers for 11% for atheists, yeah?
Well, no, also Orthodox. Orthodox is very low too.
Okay, so it's marginally different, but the risk is still there, and the risk is that bad that it doesn't warrant entering the gate. Like, you know, your whole argument always seems to go back to like it ought to be this way in a perfect world.
No.
But the problem with Christianity and the churches in general is they're compromised, right? Like,
Some of them
ruin.
They are compromised. And you're not going to convince me otherwise. I mean, you could say they're not, but like I had an Orthodox priest like come into my spaces and one of my spaces and argue why it's okay for women to not sleep with their husbands and that the men need to buy them stuff. Okay. Doug MPA has the other stats from the video. The Institute for Family Studies tries to claim that attending church reduces your chance of divorce by 50%. That's a lie. Catholics that attend church multiple times a week had a roughly 30% chance of getting divorced. Protestants that attend church, it was slightly higher at 35%. Only 12% of Protestants and Catholics attend church more than once a week. Depression was counted as less likely in married men, but the stat is disproven by the amount of men that get depressed from getting divorced. Okay.
Most Western religions today, they're painting rainbows on churches or allowing trans kids to attend, even in Christian churches. There's been plenty of examples of that. So
yeah,
there's
but
no-
I mean,
like, there's no real
secularism.
buffer.
Yeah, secularism's no protection from that. That's the first argument. It's not like you being not a Christian is going to protect you
Right, so I
from
mean, you're
having
saying
your.
Christianity
Hang on. Let me
Slightly
respond.
better, but it's
No, it's not just slightly better. It's overwhelmingly better. Descriptively, now it's true. So let's untangle a couple things.
Yeah.
The first thing is, if we're talking about an is versus an ought, I'm not even to what we ought to do. I'm talking about what is descriptively true right this second, not what is future and utopian, right? Coach Greg Adams made this mistake too because he's a moron. But I don't think you seem like a smart guy. I'm talking about what's true now, not what's true in 300.
Yeah, but it could be true today, but a marriage is supposed to be 50 years. That's a long time. You know,
years. What is
What's
true right now is that
everybody that gets married as a man faces the wrath of family court and toxic feminism.
No, they don't.
Yes, they do.
No, they don't. They don't
Yes, they
face
do.
it.
yes, because she has the power. So not every woman will use it, right? But every woman can, you know. So
fact, in many of
You
these
can be-
groups, almost none of them face it.
My friend, I have a gentleman that I spoke to a couple of weeks ago that was in a Christian Orthodox marriage, 8 kids.
Mhm.
The wife and the pastor turned against him, threw him out of the court. He got divorced.
that happens all the time because again, men's biggest addiction is female validation, and men will throw each other under the bus for like a crumb of female validation. It is incredible.
Raped, alienated from his kids. Would you like me to keep telling you more stories?
Do you
about
think,
relationships?
hang on, Rich, do you think
But
that
they always wave them away like they don't matter. Like, oh, it doesn't matter. Here's my study. It's because they like having power. They want to say, take me seriously. I have a study. Like, you know, it's fine for debates, and I understand the utility of them, but you are just always going to get more information by talking to people who work in the field. Always, 100% of the time. Always, always, always.
because some bad things happen to some people, that means all people.
And it's better if you get people that don't have an incentive to lie. Like people look to studies as gospels, but there's so many variables that are not measured by stats because they're too subjective. Like, does the wife constantly nag? Does she respect her husband? Does she sleep with him, etc.? Yeah. Is that in the studies? No. Okay.
in that group are going to experience those
No, but
bad
what
things.
I'm saying is that there is no consistency with the churches these days. It's not a buffer. It doesn't offer a significant enough of a improvement in the outcome that I would say that it justifies taking the risk of living in a way that looks like marriage to the government.
Okay, well, let's try this then. If that's the argument, if the argument is any risk is too much risk, then what is the proper way in which we raise children in the 21st century? Can you walk me through how it got?
I'm pro surrogate. I think let's surrogate this bitch.
Guy who is, I don't know, 23, wants to have kids.
Sure.
Okay. How's he supposed to do that without A, having a bunch of wealth that he's not going to have at 23? That's just not going to happen.
Right.
How does he actually have children and raise them absent
That's
moving
a great
into
question.
hang on.
Okay, go ahead.
Let me finish the question. Absent risk mitigation. So what I would say is there's no way to have good outcomes for children absent being in a married home in a general sense. There are sometimes where it can work out. Most times it doesn't. The outcomes for the children are bad. Cohabitation outcomes are almost always universally
Yeah,
bad.
but you can't really know what the future is going to predict. Like I bet all those guys told I bet all of those people told that guy in China he was crazy for having a surrogate daughter. But now who's laughing now? His kid's in the Olympics, bitches.
But risk mitigation, we're talking about through traditional marriages in the church, seem to buffer against this in a significant way. So I'm 23, I want to have kids. How do I do that absent a wife exactly and get good outcomes? Can you tell me that?
No,
No.
I don't have a solution to that for a 23-year-old. But what I can tell you is there's lots of opportunities as a man.
Well, you have choices and trade-offs.
Navigates life, becomes more seasoned, creates some value and renown for himself to structure himself in such a way where he can have children, still parent them, and not
You
invite
need to have the money for a divorce, and you should bang bitches on your way to the top. That's my advice.
the government into his life. And that would
Yeah, but that's not going to
involve
be available for the majority of men, right?
marriage at 20.
Yeah, I mean, marriage is for the upper class. Sorry, fellas, I don't make the rules. Because women aren't going to marry men unless they're upper class. Like, women will bang broke men, but in terms of marrying them, just not as common. And I really wouldn't get married unless you have the money for a divorce. That's up to you, though. Again, that's up to every man. If a guy wants to get married and take the risk, I will never tell him not to. That is your choice.
For 23. No, you're right.
But that's not going to be available to the majority of men. The vast majority of men, that's going to be unavailable to.
Yeah, and that's the shitty thing about the environment that men live in.
Yeah,
today.
and that's that because the vast majority of men, one, women aren't going to select them because we're crazy, and two, I mean, the average men are the ones that are at the biggest risk from literally being enslaved, where they take the majority of their income. So
is that they're forced to deal with the reality of, hey, I'm religious, I'm 20 something odd years old, I want to get a gal and have a family and have a bunch of kids running around, have a good time with them. I get it, children are wonderful, but the chances of them being successful in the outcome that you'd like to predict for them is very, very low. Men
No,
are
it's
more-
very high. That's my
No,
whole
hear me
point.
out.
no, it's not. And again, he's going to try to sell it as, it's something special or different. And maybe in his heart of hearts, like, I like it. He's a good guy, but I just don't know how you can say that with what we're seeing. I mean, I don't even understand, because I've talked to Rachel about this. Most couples we know, the women are nagging, bitching wives, and like they don't even like their husbands. Andrew and Rachel, they really do love each other, so they're an exception, but it's not the norm. So I always wonder. I don't know. I think one of these days we'll riff about it again.
No, hear me out. Men
Go
are not
ahead.
equipped very well to deal with modern women today, and the type
Because the other issue too is they can't get laid enough to overcome women.
of women that are available to men, the inventory that exists in the pool, are of such low quality, it just doesn't make sense to live in a way that looks like marriage to the government. You can love a woman, you can have a relationship with a woman. I just don't recommend that men live in a way that looks like marriage to the government, because that's where the potential outcomes can get really problematic. You can still have children with women and raise children. but
How?
you don't want to live in a way that looks like
Yeah,
marriage
how
to
are
the
they
government.
supposed to do that, dude?
Well, there's a few ways. I'm glad you asked that question, because there's a few ways to mitigate the risk, or at least reduce it somewhat. Canada would be off the table completely. because there's no opportunity here to do that. But you could move to a state like Kentucky, for example, or Florida. I can't remember what the other two are, but there's a website called the National Parenting Org, and they produce a report card every year telling you which states are not hostile towards father. Notice I don't say friendly towards fathers, but not hostile towards father, where the outcome is a default 50-50 arrangement.
Yeah, but what about the outcomes for the kids? That's what I'm concerned with.
Yeah, so the outcomes for the kids are obviously better when the parents stay together, and you reduce the.
But you don't know, like, there's no way to predict into the future how these like new arrangements are going to work. Like if the parents live separately, but the dad, like, because most divorced situations, the dad's like not, you know, the parents aren't getting along, but there's going to be men that say, hey, we can be together, but we are not living together. And there's no way to predict how those kids will turn out. Everyone likes to sit on their high horse and say, oh, marriage is better. It's like, I don't think so. I don't think so.
Risk for the mom to leave dad. And Kentucky successfully did that. They lowered the divorce rate by 20% by assuming default 50-50 custody on divorce. She would have to prove that he's some kind of a degenerate piece of shit, drug dealer, gangster, or something like this, where it would warrant her getting custody. But if you live in that state now, they're seeing the divorce rate drop by 20%.
Well, then you've created a contradiction. You've created a contradiction here, Rich, because earlier when I asked you, I said, Rich, why is it that if you're in a low risk category as a group for getting divorced, shouldn't you do it? And you said, well, any risk is too high, but now you advise.
But the red pill doesn't prescribe. They would not advise you to live in any way that looks like marriage to the government. But like, again, he keeps saying what's best for the kids, what's best for the man, you know? What is best for the man? That's they always leave out.
Men go to a state where they still run. Hang on, Rich. Hang on. Let me finish, bro. I just heard you out. The contradiction here is obvious. If I ask you why shouldn't people who are in already mitigated low risk groups for getting divorced shouldn't do it, you say because the risk is high if there's even one divorce. And then I go, okay, but what should they do then to raise children? You say, well, they should go to some place where it doesn't assure them not getting divorced. Well, that's hang on. It only helps mitigate the risk. And it's like, but that's my argument. My argument is that these groups are already mitigating risk. Why is it that you shouldn't be gravitating towards the groups which mitigate risk when that's your advice to men now?
Great. So what we're saying then is Kentucky mitigates the risk better than Christianity.
No, it doesn't.
That was actually, oh my God, he cooked. Best for the kids is the show prompt. It's marriage good for men. And then they'll always kind of go down. They'll say, well, isn't it best for the man if the kids turn out okay? And it's like, well, I mean, yeah, but that's not even a guarantee in marriage. You know, the woman can just turn the kids against you for 50 years. The dad has no idea. And then they hate you when they turn 18. That happens all the time.
Certainly.
No, it assists with a de-incentive. But if you were a Christian in Kentucky, then your risk would be mitigated by double.
We're going back to the ought to, in a perfect world for Christians.
No, descriptive is right this second. If it's the case that it's lower than the national average over.
No, but it doesn't, there's no good way to predict how people married today are going to fare in 50 years. Like they could have taken stats in 1930 and the stats that are like 40, right? You get married in 1940, your marriage is expected to be for life. So let's say you marry your bitch at 20 in 1940. Well, 1950s come around, the 60s and the 70s. Now she's 40 and no fault divorce is legalized. Well, how could you have predicted that now your wife is empowered to leave you when it was like a 0% divorce rate when you married her? Now it's legal. Like you can't predict what's going to be legal in 20 years.
Overwhelmingly, which it is. And then you combine that with disincentives for women from the state. It sounds like it's a very low risk endeavor, right, Rich?
It's
not really.
It's a high enough risk that it's not worth any man to live in a way that looks like marriage to the government. I mean, like, even
But you just
like,
had to
there-
move to a
hear me
place
out
where
for a second, Andrew.
I'm so
you gotta
confused
let me
by that.
talk sometimes too, okay?
I've been letting you talk.
In heavy like Eastern Orthodox countries like Russia, the narrative is still women get 80% of custody orders, right? This is across the world. This isn't just in North America. This is how we see family courts and religion apply to men and women's lives. And the whole point of a marriage, the whole point of marriage and children, you would say what? To pass on your name, pass on your DNA, to name your sons, that leave a legacy behind? What would you say it is?
Well, it depends on the worldview. From the Christian worldview, we feel that there's a commandment to do so, to
Yeah, God can't command these hoes.
multiply and to get, and for the most part, for most men to get married. Not every man's called to do that, but generally speaking, most of them seem to be. They seem to want to be with a woman. They seem to want to have children with that woman, and they're commanded to do this. From a secularist perspective, or a non-Christian or a non-religious person, it seems to vary based on things like you mentioned, perhaps legacy, perhaps they have different incentives for why it is that they want to do that. I couldn't begin to tell you all of them, because secular marriage to me is bizarre. It makes no sense. I don't know. I don't even understand it. But I do want at
marriage
least
doesn't make much sense in general.
I think marriage does make sense in general.
Not really.
I think,
because
well,
it fails most of the time.
it doesn't fail most of the time. That's a
It
lie.
does.
It doesn't. It
And
doesn't.
when you look at the data around the people that
Show me
live
the
in a way
data
that
that
look
marriage
like
fails most of
marriage.
the time. Let's start with that.
With what? Sorry.
The data that marriage fails most of the time.
Yeah. So when you look at the data on people that live in a way that looks like marriage, so there was a study done. Aaron and Acevedo covered this. The effects of love on long-term relationships, and they found that less than 13% of people in the study, and I can't remember the count. I think I wrote it down over here. Hold on a second. It was 6,000 something people, 6,070 people over a span of 8.84 years. And again, the title of the study is, Does Long-Term Relationship Kill Romantic Love? 12% are in love and 3% are in a state of obsession or bliss. I think that's why most guys would want to get married, is they think that they're going to be in a state of obsession or bliss with their wife into perpetuity and be granted access to lots of enthusiastic sex whenever they want it. And that's not the reality that most men experience when they get into it. And some of that data supports that, suggesting that most people that are still together over 8.84 years don't even like each other. So you're saying that, yeah, the divorce rate is, I don't know, 40 something percent or whatever it happens to be. Then you got to look at the people that are staying together out of maybe convenience because they're too cowardly to leave. They're not good enough looking to leave. They might be poor. They might have other anchors sort of tying them down.
and
But
not good looking enough. Sorry, I'm ordering something. Not being good looking enough is a big example. I mean, that's like, does it really count if your wife stays with you if she's ugly? Because a decent looking 40-year-old, I mean, she can still go to a 60-year-old and trade up, or, you know, maybe trade a little worse, but like trade different, right? But like if she's fat, I mean, and does he even want her to stay that bad?
there's a lot of people that stay in long-term relationships that don't even like each other. Like the chances of you being in love with your spouse is very low.
To what? Yeah.
Again,
So what? So the
So
question
what?
here.
So what? But again, he's saying what's best for the kids, what's best for society, not what's best for the man. What's best for the man is not to have a nagging, bitchy wife. I think Andrew's point is to convert people to Orthodox. Marriage is a carrot. If he cared about men, he would try and change the divorce laws instead of convincing them to be religious. Yeah. I mean, it's not like that he can't care. Like, he doesn't have any power, neither do I. I mean, I don't want to sell you guys hope, but I'm going to make a cool documentary about it. And at least that'll be better media than we've seen in the past. But I don't want to sell hope, because it doesn't mean I can try. I'll do my best. I want to actually start a nonprofit, and I want to put Terrence in charge of it. And he's going to go after these judges. But we got to get the infrastructure to raise money for this stuff. So right now we're building that. It's probably going to take 1 to 2 months. So but it'll be a cool. But I'm going to do my best. You know, I do want enough money to do guitar lessons because I want this intro to my show to be really cool. But other than that, and I want to buy this studio or the house here because then it would be cool because then they can't kick me out of here. Like, because when I went to London, I built this whole studio and then I had to leave. What an L. Yeah, I could not figure out how to take down these judges, but Terrence has a plan, and it'll be better than my plan, so I'm going to let him. Looks aren't the relationship factor. Yeah, for ugly dudes. Attractive dudes, it definitely plays into the mix. They might not pick the hottest girl they can get, but there has to be she has to be good enough for them to be in public. Well, I want Terrence. Yeah, I want Terrence employed. I don't know how we'd set it up, right? Because I'm just not, it's very difficult for me to like plan it when we're just not that close. Like I'm trying to get the documentary first. Then with the documentary, I want to raise money for the nonprofit. And the nonprofit, I want to be able to help with the marketing and like doing debates when it comes to men's issues. And then I want to put money towards the nonprofit, right? And then the nonprofit, I would put Terrence in charge of it. And because who knows more than Terrence? Maybe Rich Cooper will want to work on it. I don't know. But I want to have them because these are the guys that they know more than I do. They're more intelligent. They're just much better in every way. Right. And so what I would like them if they want to, like I could help raise the money and they could go after these judges. Right. So that's what I would do. I forgot what Terrence's plan was, but it was better than mine.
That I'm asking you is,
well, the point that I'm
man,
making is
man wants to have
those that are
kids.
in long-term relationships because you're
Yeah,
saying it's worth
great,
it.
but
that
let's
live in a way
let's-
that look like
hang
marriage,
on,
and I'm
let's-
telling you, the data suggests that that's not reflective of what.
Yeah,
people look for.
here's the problem with the argument where it holds no muster and it doesn't even contend with what I'm asking you. What I'm asking you is, if you want to have kids, you want to have children, and you want good outcomes for the children. What other than marriage, especially from a religious perspective, is going to create better outcomes for the children, Rich? That's the question. Now, you keep defaulting to, what about me, the father? What about me,
Yeah, 'cause
this
the
guy?
question
I
is,
hang on, I get
marriage
that.
is worthwhile for men, so I'm talking about men, right? Like, this is the angle. This is the prompt.
Yeah, but the thing is like,
I'm always trying to bring it back to men.
but you see how men want to have kids.
Sure.
And so they want their kids to have good outcomes. And
Sure.
so how are men going to have their kids have good outcomes?
Well, you can have kids and not live in a way that looks like marriage to the government.
Yeah. Okay. How?
You have kids with a woman, you
Mhm.
don't live together, and you parent them together in separate homes.
That looks the same as divorce. That looks the same as a divorce arrangement.
No, it's not the same. It's really not the same because I mean, like my parents have two houses. I mean, sometimes my dad goes to one, my mom goes to another. You know what I mean? It's like I don't think, I mean, if they really love each other, that is not the same thing at all. It just means that he can go get space when the woman's like nagging. He could even take the kid and let the woman, like, you know, when she's angry, like how awesome would it be if you could just leave, you could take your kid so the kid's not tortured and you could just leave the woman at her apartment on her period. Wouldn't that be amazing? Like imagine two houses, maybe in a house and an apartment, right? He has a house and then like he's got an apartment and then she's being a bitch, right? And he just says, all right, honey, I love you. I'm going to send you, you could even send her, there's so many female adult daycares, right? So you could send her to like the spa for a day. Yeah, you could so what you could do is, so my gym, I love my gym. There's like massages, I think there. I've never gotten a massage, but like imagine she's being a bitch and you say, hey, honey, let me just drop you off. Or maybe she's being a bitch, so she doesn't deserve it. So you drop her off. I don't know. What's a place you could drop off? And so this is what I would do. So you get a bitch, right? And then you get a surrogate. Now, I don't know. Can you get a surrogate with a woman and like have her still be the mom? Maybe you get a different mom. I don't know. But women don't even like they don't want to ruin their bodies to have a kid. So women aren't even like dying to have kids anyway. So you can be like, honey, we're going to get this nice surrogate to do the kid for you. And she's like, aw, whatever. He gets now he's got primary custody. And every time she's a bitch, right? Maybe they could live in the house together, but she has her own apartment. Because women always say, I don't want to lose myself. So then you could be like, oh, honey, you know, why don't you go be yourself in the apartment? And so then he drops her off at the apartment. And then at that apartment, like imagine like she's at that apartment and like she can cool down. And when she's done being a bitch, now she can come back. That sounds like oh my God, a play. That sounds like peace on earth. That sounds like paradise. A way where you could banish your woman. Like imagine if every time your mother was nagging, your dad says, honey, I'm bringing you to the apartment until you behave better. That just sounds amazing. Last child support check cleared. Woo, never again. Congratulations, sir. I don't hate women. Well, I just look at, and I see it in myself, you know, we're just turmoil. And right now, no women are under the authority or can be corrected by man. And so that's why men. And that's why now the problem is, men with no leadership, like no balls in a way, they think they could do well with authority over women. And that's where you get, I guess, some of the like delusional guy. Like there's delusional men, there's delusional women, right? So sometimes I'm actually okay with some men having multiple wives because some men just don't have the leadership. Like they're too simp. The simp is just in their blood. They're never going to be able to tell a woman, like they're always going to fold. They're too accommodating. They're too, are you okay? It's just never going to happen. And it's partially because their mothers probably fucked them up, right? The school system fucked them up, but like they're just too ruined. Like kind of like the way some women are just too damaged. Some men are too damaged too, right? Simp's going to say, yeah, it's just, I mean, there's men with cuck fantasies. I mean, you really want them to have a wife? We got to give it. I don't know. I actually thought about watching the debate with Andrew had. I've watched it before, but with that biblical polygamy guy, because he kind of was making sense. He was actually making a lot of sense to me. If women only chase the top 20%, why should the 20% have one woman? Well, here's the thing. I was thinking about it. And a lot of people think like the way women are today, there's a bunch of single mothers, there's old women. So like if men worked really hard and they got 3 subpar women, I think a lot of men would be okay with that. Like, okay, you get one single mother, but the dad has custody. You get one woman that's 35. You get one 25-year-old woman. Like a lot of men would be like, okay, there's some variety, good enough. You know, because like a lot of men, they see it as, oh, well, like the top 20% are going to take the women. And it's like, well, just for a period of time until she gets bored and leaves for the next guy that takes the women, you know. Just is. Am I in high school or college? That's very sweet, but I know I look old, right? I know I look old. So Pearl wants to be a second wife so bad. I don't think I have it in me, to be honest. I really wish I could turn off because I know logically, right? I know logically men cheat and men like want to explore their options and blah, blah, blah. Like, do you know how you guys wish you could turn off that part of you that cares about like a woman's past? I've heard men say this. They wish, because some of the whores will be so cool, but they just can't get over it. That's how I feel about men banging other women. I just can't turn it off. I know I look different than 4 years ago. I'm uglier now, you know, just is what it is. I wish I am a little thinner, but I mean, youth has a glow you just can never buy back. You just can never buy back. But logically, I can understand it. Like it would actually make sense. Pearl, would you cash out in a divorce? Well, every woman thinks that she wouldn't. Do you think women go into marriage planning to rob men for, I mean, some women do, But women are so emotional. Like it's just, oh, I feel angry. Let me crash out. Oh, let me steal all this stuff because he did this thing I didn't like. It's like, it just is what it is. No. I mean, I don't really think women go into it. Every woman thinks they'll do the right thing until they're mad enough, Just is what it is.
Arrangement to me. How is that different?
And that's the unfortunate reality of the world that we live in today.
What? So your solution is if you get here's your idea.
The only
Your idea
difference is the man is still the head of the household.
Hang on. Here's what you just said. If you get divorced,
Hang
one
on,
of the
The
am
biggest
I allowed to
difference
respond
is
now?
that the men are still the head of the household when they run the relationship that way versus
They're not the head
divorce.
of the household.
Women
How?
are still. Sorry,
How are they the head of the household if you're not even living together? There is no household.
you're paying for everything.
Yeah. So your solution is have two separate houses. So you're paying double for two
That's-
separate houses, and then split
that's one way to
parenting
do it.
time.
Yeah, that's
Split
one way to do
parenting
it,
time
yeah.
with the woman.
What's that?
Well, it doesn't have to
Your
be
your
split.
idea here is
No,
pay
but
for two different.
Okay, it doesn't have to be split because we have to remember a few things. Marriage is going to be for the upper class. Middle class people aren't really going to get the opportunity to be married anymore. One, because women aren't going to select them. Two, a lot of those men can't afford a divorce. Marriage is for people that can afford a divorce. Yes, like people aren't really going to buy houses anymore, and men and women can be employed. So yeah, you would split parenting time, but there's a lot of different jobs you could make that work. Yeah. Okay, so the man pays for no, she would pay for her house because women can have jobs now. Sorry, bitch, you wanted equality, here it is. So she can pay for herself, right? And he can pay for the house, and then she can stay in the house whenever she's acting good, but when she's acting like a bitch, she's got to go, when Chad comes over, she gets minorly upset over the dumbest thing. Well, Chad's going to come over. Do you think it's like Chad isn't going to come over? Men have housewives, and Chad's still Chad's going to come over regardless. Like at least then, this got at least that way she can pay for it herself. He didn't invest a bunch of money in this bitch, I am going to go on whatever soon. But Brian hasn't responded to me. I don't know. Maybe we have beef and I didn't know it. Yeah, so the Chad's gonna come regardless. So you're probably gonna get cheated on. I mean, that's just it is what it is. Take the L, eat it, whatever. But at least that way the woman is paying for herself, so he's at less of a risk for child support and alimony. And you guys could still sleep together like a good chunk of the nights. He just has his own house, I mean, when you're dating, most nights you're together. You just kind of alternate houses. So it's a little annoying. You got two rents, but you could even hypothetically do it so you live next door. There's a lot of ways to do it, right? Yeah, so
domiciles and then split parenting time with the woman. Now, if we had a divorced relationship, you would be living in two domiciles and splitting the parent time with the woman. So
but it wouldn't be split because ideally you'd like each other. You'd be hanging out. Accepting a woman, okay, this is such a low IQ take, respectfully. Accepting a woman who is cheating on you is like accepting STDs. Do you think she's going to tell you? There's no accepting or not accepting. It's not your control. Okay, I won't accept it. And the woman will say, okay, and then still go bang Chad. I'll leave you if you do this. Okay, and then still go bang Chad. It's Yeah.
Hang on. So if the risk of divorce is, well, you may not be able to see your kids, and you may have to be
Let's
paying
do it
for
one
your.
thing at
Hang
a
on,
time here,
Rich.
because I
Let
don't
me
think that
finish.
men are
Are
needed
you going to
to
let
do
me? Let me finish
much
my
of the
point.
parenting when children are small.
Let me
specifically.
finish my
Well,
point.
you're talking about parenting, right?
Yeah,
So-
let me finish my point.
Because Rich is coming from a pragmatic. He's coming from idealism.
And then respond to
I
it.
used to argue like this, so I'm not judging. It's just a turning point you have to get to.
Then respond to it after I finish it. Your worldview just showed that there's no distinction. If I get a divorce, I have to pay for my wife's new living or ex-wife's new living arrangement in a new domicile through child support, and then I have to take care of the kids. Under your view, you're just saying go ahead and get cut right to the end and go ahead and begin paying for her domicile and support. It's literally you're just asking men to live like they're divorced.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
No, because it's totally a completely different dynamic. It's a completely, so the video is a little quiet. I can turn it up. No, because if you're together, okay, like imagine. If anything, I mean, if this is the argument he's going to make, then soldiers aren't married because they don't spend all the time at home, right? Are soldiers not married because they're living divorced because they live overseas? No. Like, okay, you could literally get townhouses. Like, you could get a townhouse and an apartment next door. You could go to a suburb and there's like, it's literally within a mile, like cities. There's going to be so many different living places that they make up that, I mean, there's going to be choices for this. You're only probably going to have one, maybe two kids. So, and you're going to be going to those people's houses, right? Like you're going to go to her house and spend time, like you'll spend the whole day there. It's not 50-50, you know? That's a minimally different dynamic. It's completely different, right? Because people that aren't together, they drop off the kid and they go home. They're not spending time together as a family. Like, they wouldn't be drop-offs. It would just be him. He could spend like 3 days with you, 4 days with you. You could spend like weeks together if you wanted, you know? Yeah.
There's no difference.
Yeah, there is a difference because
What?
the court, well, hear me out. I'll explain it to you.
All right.
The court is running the show when you get divorced. Women run the show when you get divorced. They leverage family law for their benefit. They're getting 80% of the custody orders. Whenever there's child support that's required, it flows from the father to the mother. If there's alimony that's arranged, 97% of the time it goes from the father to the mother.
Yeah, truck driver right now, I see the house maybe 4 times a month. Yeah, like you think about it, if he's got an office job, you're going to see him a lot more if you have 2 different houses than a lot of professions. A lot of professions.
And she controls most of the outcomes in a unilateral fashion when it comes to the family courts. But if you're with a woman and she says, hey, I love you, and you say, I love you too, sort of thing, and she says, you know, let's have a family, I'd like to have kids, you say, fine. But here's my boundary. I can't live in a way that looks like marriage to the government. So I'm going to pay for a house. I'll rent a house. I'll look after you. I'll come and visit you and the kids. But we can't live in a way that looks like marriage to the government.
Now, Rich, what prevents the
We're
woman
running the show.
Since there's children involved, what prevents that woman from going and pursuing child support anyway and just breaking up with you?
She can, but she doesn't
Yes,
get
she
anything else.
can. This doesn't mitigate anything.
Yes, it does.
No,
you don't have
what?
to lose half your shit.
You're already paying for half of their shit. You're paying for all their shit.
No, you don't lose half of your assets, Andrew.
Yes, you do. You're
I think
already
no, you
paying
don't.
half your assets so this woman can live apart from you.
You're not living in a way that looks like marriage to the government. You're
So,
not
yeah, but
married. You're not living in a way that looks like marriage to the government. You understand the difference. right?
No. And here's why.
For family law to force a man, to compel a man to pay alimony, it has to, like, you have to be married, or you have to live in a way that looks like marriage to the government. So if you want to go about
My bad. My bad. Okay, we're gonna go a little further back.
Yes, you do. You're
I think
already
no, you
paying
don't.
half your assets so this woman can live apart from
you're
you.
you're not living in a way that looks like marriage to the government. You're
So,
not
yeah, but
married. You're not living in a way that looks like marriage to the government. You understand the difference, right?
No. And here's why.
For family law to force a man, to compel a man to pay alimony, it has to, like, you have to be married, or you have to live in a way that looks like marriage to the government. So if you want to go about it a certain way, like, we're talking about a strategy here now at this point.
Yeah.
If you want to apply a strategy to the game to sort of circumvent some of the risk profiles, then that's one way to do it. That's just one way to do it. I mean, there's other ways that we can.
Yeah, but let's focus on this one real quick, because to me it's incoherent. The idea here is the woman can still pursue.
Incoherent because it doesn't align with your worldview with Christianity.
No, it's incoherent because when it's applied to what it is that you're trying to avoid, you're just skipping to the thing you were trying to avoid in the first place. You're going to split assets. The idea and be paying towards your wife's ex-wife's new life.
Yeah, but he's saying, like, let's try to mitigate it as much as we can. So, okay, if you're less on the hook for child support if you're resplitting the bills, you'll pay less, right? There's states you can live in, like, there's no guarantees, right? But if you want to, like, it's interesting because Rich is arguing to minimize risk with this way, and Andrew is arguing to minimize risk with God. So it's like, why is one bad and the other not?
That's what you're trying to avoid. Under your view, though, you're just doing the same thing. You're just paying for her assets in the same, in the same exact way, and she can still pursue legal action through the kids. That doesn't stop her from doing that at all.
Yeah,
and
so
you have taken out the risk mitigation now of religion. So there actually seems like there's an incentive for her to do that.
The remedy that she can apply for will be child support, right?
Yeah.
She can't apply for alimony. She can't apply for half of his shit because they're not living
Yeah.
in a way that looks like marriage.
And even child support, if they make similar, it's a lot less likely.
The state will always make sure the children are looked after. That's what they do. So
there's no avoiding the state.
Well, let's just agree on something. Like, some of the biggest risks for men are what? Child support, alimony, and the loss of half of their assets. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you just eliminate two of those risks, and the only thing that you would have to deal with is child support versus marriage, where she can take half of your shit, alimony, and child support.
You hang on. You haven't done that exactly. So no, you haven't eliminated this risk. So here's why you haven't eliminated it. You're still paying out just like you were divorced. You're still paying out just as though you were divorced for this woman to be taking care of your kids for half her assets, and you're living apart from her. And what this does is this also creates a massive problem, which is that the outcomes for the children are still not going to be as good as if they were at home with mommy and daddy together, because we have all the data in the world to provide for this. That in split households,
how much data do you have on the model that I just described to you as a solution to
that
this,
would be
to this
that
problem?
would be your burden, not mine.
Well, it's one version. It's one version that I'm.
No, but that would be your burden. You would need to show me the proof that works better than the model of being heavily religious and in marriage for mitigation. That wouldn't be on me to prove to you. It'd be on you to prove to me.
Well, they're not going to study something like that, but I can tell you from evidence that I've seen that it works quite well.
What evidence?
People that I know that do it.
That's anecdotal.
Yeah, they always, again, that's anecdotal. I hate it when commentators say that, because, like, are you gonna? Rich is a subject matter expert in this. He is a subject, like, his anecdotes matter. They're important, and they are credible. So I don't like it when commentators say that, because you're saying, believe me because of my study, and that's giving power to the academics. and the commentators that don't have like none of us have real jobs, so we can read the studies. When it's like, no, the boots on the ground, like we always need to give respect to the boots on the ground and what people are seeing with their eyes. I understand that, like, you know, for the purpose of a debate, like maybe you have to use studies, but just in general, and like, yes, statistics can be helpful, but they're not the end all be all, because statistics are owned by women, which is academia, right? The setup that Cooper is offering doesn't work for most men, nor is it effective in mitigating risk from the state intervention. You cannot logic women into not screwing you over. That's true. That's completely true. But it's just a choice, you know. That's the problem. There's no guarantees. There's just, you know, choices and trade-offs. Yeah.
That's no place in a debate. You can appeal to
There's
anecdote.
not a lot of people that do this, Andrew. Like, you realize this.
That's anecdotal.
Right, but you understand that men are having to become creative when it comes to the notion of having children without losing their shit. One of the other things you see guys trying to use to solve this problem is surrogacy, which is another bizarre one, right? Then you don't have the mom involved at all.
Yeah, but that's only going to be available to men who have wealth.
So become wealthy. It's one
Yeah,
of-
well, but that's that. But you see what I'm saying? Like, this creates a massive problem. Most men are not going to become wealthy.
No, I
Most
realize it.
people are not going.
Well, but and most women won't choose men for marriage because they don't have enough money. Women will bang men for free. So if you want sex, don't worry, that's going to be available forever. But marriage, like, women tend to pick men with money.
Or if you're not successful, then you have to follow the masses. This is why so many guys get destroyed, because the game is rigged against them. The population has no real fair way to navigate relationships and children consecutively.
Yeah, but here's the problem that you have here with this analogy. The first is when you appeal to an anecdote. If I were to give you a similar anecdote, oh, I know a lot of guys who do that and it doesn't work out for them, you wouldn't believe me because that doesn't tell us anything. That's one. The second problem here is one thing about marriage that's useful.
Yeah, no. Your anecdotes, like, here's the thing. If he has anecdotes of people that it worked out, then I just have questions, right? Okay, how long have they been together? How can you tell that it's working out? Like, where do they live? Can we interview them? Like, these are all questions, you know? Yeah, so I'm for the academic research, but I would argue the year of publication is more likely to consider. Back in the 2000s, it was more unbiased. Okay. Hold on. There's someone else's comment I wanted to read. Isn't Japan or China doing a single woman tax? So if they are, I didn't know that. But I think women will give up 10% of their income before they marry average men. They'll just get sugar baby. They'll just get sex work stuff.
For us is being able to track divorce. That's really easy because it all goes
we got
through
lots of data on that.
Yeah, we got lots of data on divorce and the statistics around it.
Yeah.
And the problem that you have here is that you're saying, well, men are getting destroyed because of how many of these, marriages end in divorce. But that's actually only true of some groups. Some groups, your risk of divorce is very, very small. It's very tiny. It's well within what I would consider.
Again, what is the difference in risk for divorce for people that are Christians versus non-Christians?
It depends on which type of Christian we're talking about. If you're nominal Christian, you're on par with the national average. If you're devout Catholic or devout Orthodox, it's...
Well, who wants to do all that? I mean, I don't want to sit through Latin Mass. Sorry, I don't want to do it. I guess I'll be with the rest of you degenerates. Like, okay, so unless I live my life the way you want me to live, now I'm going to get divorced. Yeah, it's like, okay, what about guys that have jobs that don't allow them to do that? That's why, again,
it's down to 12% to 18% versus 40%.
12 versus 40.
That's a huge, like, we're talking about now well within acceptable risk. If it's the case that 5 to 10% of people who ever have a drink are going to become alcoholics,
right,
you wouldn't say that that's so much risk.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right. Let me, all right, hold on. I did a video. Hey guys, have you heard the good news? Fake tradcons have solved all of your, let me play this video. I think it's very, all right, I'm going to play a video of mine while I go get a water because I've talked for 2 hours straight and I need water. But, Doug, this was the unlisted version. There's something wrong with the unlisted version, if I remember right. All right, let me find it. Because I think it got a decent amount of views, so it should be one of the most popular one. Women are literally incapable of saving money. Not that one. I know we posted it, so I know it's up here. Okay, hold on. Wait, where am I missing something? Okay, hold on. When we're done with the website, there's going to be a page that I think it's this one. Hold on. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Oh, here it is. This is the one. I found it. Okay. I'm going to play this video while I go get a water. Make it full screen. Okay. Have you heard the good news? Fake tradcons have solved all of your romantic problems. You can now find a girl at church and get married ASAP. Don't even worry about the risks. Just man up and marry these hoes. Don't think, just go for it. It'll probably be fine. And if you don't, you're probably one of those doomer red pillars who hate women. The opposition of feminists, or so fake tradcons have been telling me. You see, what people like the tradcons at the Daily Wire have been saying the past few years is that with a few extra steps, marriage is totally safe now.
Young men, we're just going to cut right to it. Find a woman, fall in love, get married, have more children than you can afford.
Well, now they say grow up and then get married. And in the past, they said get married and grow up.
So that you can grow up. I mean, I think, frankly, people are getting married too late on average. Right now, I think it's 28 for men and 26 for women. I think it's way too late.
In a marriage where you have children, nurture provider roles are very valuable. What do I mean by that? Nurture and provide. Both parents do both. Fathers should nurture their kids. Mothers should provide. But specifically for mothers of young children.
Divorce rates have been dropping, and all you've got to do is be religious, and the risk is almost completely eliminated. Fake tradcons have also pointed out that marriage is always awesome, and married men wind up being richer, happier, and healthier than all you single losers out there. So don't delay. Find yourself that born-again virgin, the retired OnlyFans hoe, and tie the knot right away. God will absolve her of all of her sins, so you should too. I'm sure those tattoos will laser right off. Never mind that the church is the last stop on the whore train. Of course, the reality is drastically different. When I started putting together a divorce documentary a few years ago, I could not understand why so many men did not want to get married. But then I was exposed to a vast sea of horror stories of how men were treated in marriage and divorce court. One after another, accounts of dozens upon dozens of men going through hell on earth and being ground into dust underneath a boot heel of a corrupt system. Many of these horror stories come from men who were religious. In fact, one of the worst horror stories I ever heard, an utterly harrowing tale that I will never forget, came from a man who attended the exact same church as the fanatically religious marriage pusher-in-chief, Michael Knowles of the Daily Wire.
I'm just saying
No.
how people ought to behave. They ought to get married, is what I'm saying.
Okay, well,
Which is implied by our nature, which is the is. Because it is good for men to be married and to have children.
Of course, in reality, conservative commentators frequently mislead men about marriage in a number of ways. Their motivations for this act of deception are twofold. One, they don't care about calling for divorce reform because they don't want to piss off their female audience. Women, particularly those of marriageable age, are much less likely to become conservatives. Highlighting the corruption of the divorce system, one of the few examples of institutional sexism that actually exists, would force conservatives to mention how some women have shamelessly taken advantage of the system to snatch more than their fair share or even to brutally punish their ex-husbands via lawfare. And God forbid you should offend all of those aspiring tradwives who tune into the Daily Wire, the raisin brand of online political commentary, or threaten to take away their massive safety net should the tradwives decide to turn hypocrite and quit their marriage. At best, conservative commentators will occasionally throw a lukewarm statement acknowledging that the divorce system is corrupt, before adding that it'll never be reformed in our lifetime, and so men might as well take the risk of getting married anyway. The second motivation is many conservatives are secretly happy with the divorce system as it now stands, at least partially, because it allows them to sell their religion as a vital part of the solution. If divorce law was reformed to be more equitable and less biased against men, then fake tradcons wouldn't be able to say that having a religion substantially reduces the chances of divorce. As we shall see, that claim is a significant exaggeration, and in certain cases, it's an outright lie. As for you seculars, fake tradcons really couldn't care less. Though they may not openly say it, secular marriage is an abomination in their eyes, and ultimately, you deserve what you get. And what does it matter if hundreds of millions of men across the world continue to have their families torn apart, their finances destroyed, with them becoming paying spectators of their children's lives, if it means fake tradcons get to add a few more bodies to the congregation with the claim that religion reduces risk? Ask Steven Crowder how that one worked out. So, how do conservatives gloss over the risks of men face in marriage? First, they gleefully point out that the divorce rate has been declining. It's no longer the cliche 50%. According to most reliable estimates from sources like the American Psychological Association, the U.S. Census Bureau, and the Center for Disease Control, the divorce rate has declined from roughly a 55% peak around 1980 to somewhere between 40 and 45% today. The decrease is mostly due to the marriage rate being almost cut in half since 1980 and unmarried cohabitation skyrocketing since then. If there was a sudden rush for marriage across society, it would almost certainly rise again. But the divorce rate isn't just a simple calculation. It's all based on population samples and surveys to get a crude number of divorces per 1,000 people. Then further estimates and projections are required to give us the more familiar percentages of 40, 45, or 50% of all marriages failing. The extra calculations required allow room for deliberate deception. Certain pro-marriage activists and conservative commentators have employed specific data sets and population samples, along with some creative accounting to claim that the divorce rate is actually 35%, or even as low as 30%, with some conservatives like Christian scholar and social researcher Shanti Feldhahn claiming that the divorce rate is no higher than 25%. This is delusional nonsense, but there you have it. According to the commentators who deliberately want men to nut up and get hitched, the odds of your marriage falling apart aren't 50-50. They're 1 in 3, or even as low as 1 in 4. Now, you might argue that if you started your car in the morning and there's a 25 to 35% chance of your car exploding, you'd be more likely to just take the bus. But for marriage advocates, a 25 to 35% chance of having your life ruined and your finances destroyed is an acceptable risk for men to take, for God and country. For perspective, the odds are actually worse than a round of Russian roulette. Of course, as mentioned, the most reliable estimates for the modern divorce rate are currently between 40 and 45% of all marriages failing, slightly less than half. Not exactly great, with the average length of a marriage being roughly 8 years. Hardly a picture of till death do us part, unless you happen to be a heroin addict or you've got yourself a dose of cancer. In reality, 40 to 45% is not that big of a difference from the 50-50 coin toss the general public associates with divorce. But conservatives are desperate to exaggerate just how much the divorce rate is declining, so men feel more comfortable taking the plunge. Damn the risks, marry these hoes, Godspeed. The next way fake tradcons tend to manipulate men towards marriage is by offering them the silver bullet that if you become conservative and choose a religious girl, your chances of divorce are substantially reduced. One set of statistics that has been passed around by marriage advocates and conservative commentators are the ones compiled by Megan Cooper, a purple-haired amateur historian who writes fluff for the bubblegum lifestyle website lovetoknow.com. Cooper's article was then copy and pasted almost verbatim to the websites of a few law firms, where doubtless the numbers looked more and more credible. This is where marriage advocates found them and spread them across social media as if they were fact. So widespread are they now that they are in fact the top Google search, and AI researchers like Grok mistakenly reference them. According to Megan Cooper's numbers, which she calculated somewhat haphazardly and inaccurately from a Pew survey data, I will spare you the joke about women in math. According to her, Catholics have a 19% divorce rate, Orthodox a 9%, Jews a 9%, Muslims 8%, and Hindus 5%. All of which seems substantially smaller than a US average of 40 to 45%. Then Cooper provides a 51% divorce rate for mainstream Protestants, which people uncritically think accounts for the high national average. In reality, the 51%, which has been parroted on law firm websites and across the internet, appears to have been a plain old miscalculation on Cooper's part. The highest divorce rates were among Protestants, according to Cooper's own data, are evangelicals and born-again Christians with a 28% and 33% respectively, neither of which would explain the 51% average. Nevertheless, all of these percentages seem like a substantially reduced risk, making it appear as all you got to do is get right with God and you'll wind up with an adorable wife in a sundress who bakes cherry pies all day. But what most people don't seem to notice is these numbers are not lifetime divorce rates. Instead, they are a snapshot of the number of divorced people at any given time. The percentages don't take into account these people who have remarried. And we know divorce rates are worse for second and third marriages. And what marriage advocates and conservative commentators often neglect to mention about Cooper's data is that the divorce rate for atheists is 2%, which law firms inflated to 11% to look slightly less ridiculous. This is the stuff that is currently being widely cited online as fact. Conservative commentators just tend not to mention the atheist number. Either way, the low divorce rate for atheists would seemingly imply that the reduced risk has nothing to do with religion. But something doesn't add up. On the other hand, if we correct Megan Cooper's math and derive lifetime divorce rates from the same Pew data, it paints a drastically different picture. People with no religion have a lifetime divorce rate of 48%. Evangelicals have a divorce rate of 46%. Mainstream Protestants, 42%. Historically Black Protestants, 54%. Catholics, 35%. Orthodox, 33%. Jews, 33%. Muslims, 24%. And Hindus, 15%. For Christian denominations and Judaism, that means your odds of divorce lie between 1 in 3 and 1 in 2. Not exactly that much of a reduction of risk. And given that most American conservatives are Christian, they are probably not exactly thrilled with the idea of your best bet for staying married is worshiping Allah or Vishnu. And these religions have a lower divorce rate for other reasons, such as the subordination of women in the Islamic Hadith and the arranged marriages of the Hindu. It should be noted that Hindus have slightly better odds than a game of Russian roulette, and only by a measly 1.6%. And it's hardly a silver bullet against divorce if the state is still holding a gun to your head. I should point out that I'm continuing to develop my in-depth documentary on modern divorce with a huge emphasis on listening to men's stories and perspectives and calling for direly needed legal reform and societal change. The documentary is heavily dependent on viewers for support. The more funding we receive, the more we can do, and the deeper down the rabbit hole we can venture. There's a link to the GoFundMe in the video description if you want to get involved. Now, a marriage pusher from the fake tradcon side might be quick to point out that many of these people are religious in name only. The Institute for Family Studies, which in reality is nothing more than a pro-marriage propaganda outlet masquerading as a scholarly organization, have made great hay with the claim that regular church attendance seems to correlate with a 50% reduction in the likelihood of divorce. In fact, this claim ties back to a 2018 Harvard study, which found that super devout Christians who attended church more than once a week reduced their likelihood of divorce by 42%. not those who attended once a week, and certainly not those who attended less. Broken down, this is a 32% reduction of risk for Protestants who attended church more than once a week, and a 54% reduction for Catholics who showed up multiple times a week. The difference between the two largely being the greater hostility towards divorce within Catholicism. Nevertheless, 28% of super devout Protestants, 16% of super devout Catholics who attended church multiple times per week still ended up getting divorced, a risk of roughly 1 in 4 for Protestants and a Russian roulette risk of 1 in 6 for Catholics. Furthermore, according to Pew data and also Lifeway's research, only 12% of both Catholics and Protestants attend church more than once per week, with most of these people being middle-aged or older, not in their 20s and 30s. So even if men were to make the commitment of being super devout, there would be nowhere near a large enough pool of available church girls to go out with. So despite what fake tradcons would tell you, religiosity is hardly a solution for the male population to overcome the risks of divorce. But as I mentioned, most members of the fake tradcon could give a damn about the male population at large. They're mostly interested in using the divorce issue as a foil for recruitment. And it goes without saying that not all super devout women who don't believe in divorce will necessarily be all sweetness and light after the wedding. Some men will find themselves trapped in toxic marriages with female religious fanatics who call all the shot, are stingy with sex, and weigh their husbands down with all sorts of unreasonable demands and moral standards. Never mind the massive potential for a religious wife to turn out to be a hypocrite. We shall probably never know what percentage of super devout marriages are genuinely happy and what percentage are not, since keeping up with the appearances and keeping marital problems secret are a notorious part of how super devout couples operate. But what are the benefits of matrimony to men? Marriage advocates frequently talk about how, on average, married men benefit from greater health, happiness, and financial success. The U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics indicates that married men earn 10 to 20% more than single ones. But please bear in mind that is largely due to a higher financial burden placed upon a married man. Yes, there is the cost of children, but more significantly is the average cost of materially satisfying a wife. Now, part of this is evolution. Women's nesting habits can prompt the purchase of everything from a nice house to silverware to otherwise useless throw pillows. And part of this is social status, with women being far more likely to push for luxury brands or to go on 2 vacations a year. All told, a wife can quadruple a man's household expenditures. Meanwhile, a single man can be satisfied with far fewer possessions, mostly the basic essentials, plus some recreational purchases like TVs, game consoles, and sound systems. Beyond that, the most single men are satisfied with far less, some even being perfectly happy with a studio apartment and a mattress on the floor. In short, married men earn 10 to 20% more money because their wives make it so they have to. As for happiness, the General Social Survey in 2022 indicated that roughly 33% more married men ticked the box for being very happy compared to single men. And a 2019 article in the Journal of Marriage and Family found that depression was 47% less common among married men than their single counterparts. However, that's really not the whole picture. According to the Journal of Psychological Medicine, the 40 to 45% of married men who get divorced see their depression rates skyrocket again by 312%, far outstripping the depression rates seen among single men. So congrats if you're married and it works out. I'm not denying that there are successful marriages to good women that could potentially make men happy. The point is that men today are running a considerable risk to the tune of 40 to 45% of those attempts at happiness blowing up in their face and leaving them worse off than if they had just saved their money and remained single. And it is entirely unsurprising that most troubled people in the world tend to be single. However, if you are a single man and you don't binge drink, shoot heroin, or eat like shit, but take decent care of yourself, none of these arguments really apply to you. You'll live as long as a married man. But how about prenups? After all, it's another way for men to reduce the risk of being financially destroyed or having their children taken away from them in a corrupt divorce system. Some conservative commentators like Michael Knowles discourage prenups as a safety measure altogether, since, according to him, it violates the sacrament of marriage by merely acknowledging the statistical reality that the relationship might fail.
You know the state of
I'm
marriage
articulating
today.
the Catholic view.
You know the state of women today, and men still can't get prenups
Right.
to protect themselves.
Right. Because marriage, in its nature, as you said, is a lifelong union of a man and a woman for the sake of begetting and educating children and for the mutual
Right,
support of the
but-
spouses.
You know, they would share some things. They would never get specific on specific people, but they would say that most of the marriages are miserable. People are miserably married. And I think I've even heard another guy you talked to, Tim, say something similar.
FYI, there's nothing in the Bible explicitly against prenups. This is just a rigid and somewhat reckless interpretation of theology. According to Knowles, men just have to suck it up and leave themselves completely exposed and legally vulnerable because God allegedly wants them to. But I suspect if the sacrament of baptism resulted in babies drowning 40 to 45% of the time, most parents would be inclined to buy their child water wings. Other conservative commentators are more reasonable than Knowles and recognize in the modern world, prenups are a great form of risk mitigation. According to the available data, only about 12% of prenuptial agreements are thrown out in court. So men who take this precaution only have a 1 in 8 chance of getting financially obliterated and having their children stolen. At least it's slightly better odds than having a game of Russian roulette. And I leave it up to you to decide whether or not that makes marriage low enough of a risk to go for it. However, according to a 2022 Harris poll, only 15% of spouses across the United States actually get prenups. And according to a 2017 Brandon Gale survey, 67% of women who are hostile to the idea of getting one. So making a prenup a prerequisite for marriage might severely constrict a man's dating pool and leave the majority of men out here in the cold unable to find a reasonable woman who recognizes the corruption of divorce courts. The truth is, there is no silver bullet that would cure men's justifiable marriage hesitancy. According to a 2023 study published by Date Psychology, roughly 2/3 of men seem to be entirely turned off by dating. The juice doesn't seem to be worth the squeeze. And these men won't be coming back to the table until there's meaningful divorce court reform or a greater proportion of women learning to become wife material worthy of the risk, preferably both. As such, if fake tradcons are generally concerned for the romantic and marital happiness of men and not just those men that they think they can convert, they would make a campaign for divorce court reform their number one issue with regard to the future of the nation. Because without men marrying, the fertility rate is going to continue to plummet to South Korea levels. Meanwhile, I suspect that the dating situation is going to continue to deteriorate until young women realize that their own interests are being hurt by neglecting the traits, qualities, and outlook that men seek in romantic partners. After all, involuntary singleness and childlessness are already at epidemic levels among Western women, and this trend is projected to continue to climb. In order for that pattern to reverse itself, reciprocity is key. The juice must be worth the squeeze. Fake tradcons have often tarred me with the brush of being a black pill doomer who thrives off of men being lonely and miserable. In which case, I must be doing a bad job because the majority of my single fan base report having found peace without the risks, burdens, and inequality of a modern marriage. But for another thing, that claim simply isn't true. I just want men to be well informed and to have a clear idea of the state of the field without being misled by those with obvious self-serving agendas. Those who want to use men as a disposable cannon fodder in the war for their political and religious ideals. I have repeatedly said that I try not to prescribe things to men or tell them how to live. Individual men are different with different skills, different personalities, different circumstances, and different women around them. If you find a woman who is loyal, ride or die, and seems worth the risk of marriage, then go for it. Consider a prenup. But if you're a man who wants to go his own way and you are happy and at peace alone, also go for it. If you're a man who just wants to date, party, and have fun, as long as you aren't misleading women with false promises, I say go for it as well. Regardless of what path you choose, I hope it is right for you and that it brings you satisfaction and contentment. Just do it fully informed, forewarned, and forearmed, eyes open. Thank you for watching. Like the video, and we'll talk to you next time. All right, guys. I think I'm gonna reserve the rest of this stream because I've been going like 3 hours. I think tomorrow I'll maybe do a part 2 unless I think of something better. But anyways, it was good content regardless. Respect to entrepreneurs in cars and also respect to Andrew Wilson. Both really great people in the space. I enjoy them. So anyways, guys, make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel. And I'll see you tomorrow. Probably around like 5 to 7-ish tomorrow. I do it different times every day because, in all honesty, sometimes I get stuff done. Sometimes my man wants to hang out, or I'll want to do something with him. So maybe like it'll take longer. It's just sometimes I won't get my gym session takes longer. So it's just usually 5 and 8 or something. So I'll see you guys later. Love you. And I'll see you next time.